Chapter 1186. It was probably a long time later that I knew where this feeling came from. It was an inexplicable call from the bottom of my heart, calling for a throbbing that I had never felt before. I admired her honesty, and I also admired her standing in the middle of thousands of enemies, the corner of her mouth raised, and the drunken dream's sword was stained with blood. But what I admired the most was her attitude towards Yijihan, probably because I knew she wasn't her. When her words were like needles piercing Yijihan's ears, my heart was filled with blood. This man was the person I hated the most in my life. Even if I died, I wanted to kill him. Slaughter, blood, greed, desire. In this great war of gods and demons, no matter who it was, they all had those dirty thoughts in their hearts. She was the only one who was so clean. I suddenly had an inexplicable impulse. Even if I died, I wanted to die in her arms. I don't know if the heavens cared about my disappointment in this life, but in the end, I really did die in her arms. Actually, I still wanted to protect her, but I knew I couldn't do it. The firmament stone was too strong, so strong that even if I sacrificed my blood to the silver phoenix zither, I could only block one wave of its attack. Actually, I felt sorry for her. After all, I said I would protect her, but she didn't seem to blame me. I could still see a touch of Li Guang in her eyes. She took off the golden ring on her right hand and put it on my ring finger. At that moment, I suddenly felt my heart tremble. My blood that was gradually getting cold suddenly boiled because of her action, but my eyelids were still getting heavier. There was something in my heart that I always wanted to say to her. In the end, I said it. I said I liked her. It was her, it wasn't her. I didn't know if she understood, but my heavy eyelids already made me unable to say another word. But at this moment, my heart was still very scared. It wasn't that I was afraid of death, but that no one could protect her. After a few seconds of silence, the ring finger on my right hand gradually became hot. The spirit that was about to dissipate seemed to stop at this moment. I could vaguely feel an incomparably strong power approaching me. No, it should be said that it was approaching her. Later, I found out that it was the new winter solstice. He was the only god in this world, or rather, one of the only gold devils in this world. The other was her. It was the first time I felt so powerless against Dong Jixian. He and Yijihan are two different kinds of people. If the person Luo Qingshan wanted to marry was him, I probably wouldn't have scattered half of my primordial spirit to steal the bride. In the end, I didn't want to give my beloved playmate to such a despicable man. Dong Jixin, on the other hand, was a terrifying existence. For her, he had shaved off his godhood and became a devil once again. For her, she saved me even though she knew who I was. For her, he destroyed all of the upper realms of the Tiana continent, leaving only the lower realm. The most frightening thing was that he had given up eternity for her. As for me, in the end, I became a fledgling phoenix. Furthermore, I was a silver phoenix, my favorite color. I have all the memories of my past life, but if I want to transform into a human, it has to be the day he died. For tens of thousands of years, I have witnessed with my own eyes how he dotes on a person at the top of his heart. Although I was jealous, I was also relieved. I was relieved to give the person I liked to him in one piece. When he died, I had half of his spiritual power. In fact, he wouldn't have died so quickly, but he said that whether they would meet again or not, he wanted to accompany her. Chapter 1187. Holding your hand. I'll accompany you for the rest of your life. I'll give you all my love. Dong Jixian, no desires, no demands, no emotions, no love. The world is so big, there is no match. I thought that if I couldn't find eternity, I would have to spend my life like this. Little did I know that the heavens still cared for me and gave me a Luo Qingshan. Before this, whether I lived or died, it didn't seem to have any meaning to me. Other than no one being able to become my opponent, no one could enter my heart. It was the same for thousands of years. The past seemed to be a bit distant, so distant that I could only remember some fragments. I was the only person in the world to become a gold demon. Of course, this was something that no one, not even my parents, had thought of. They liked to practice magic, and I liked to sit in a daze. They liked to absorb the essence of heaven and earth day and night, and I mostly slept at night. They liked to go to the lower realm to show off, and I like to occasionally find a thicker cloud to listen to an actor sing Sue by. When I was 18 years old, a golden light suddenly appeared in the sky after a nap. I directly advanced from purple demon to gold demon, completely skipping the so-called red demon. Everyone in the demon's shadow palace was in disbelief. After all, in their eyes, it was impossible for me to advance to such a level at such a young age. Even my father had asked me more than once when the last tribulation would be. I was thinking that I had never gone through a tribulation before. The only difference was that I slept very peacefully that night. After advancing to Gold Demon, the heavenly court began to fear the power of the demon's shadow palace. They sent people to the demon's shadow palace several times to try to kill me, but they didn't succeed once. The most likely success was when they sent a fairy who was very good at pretending to be weak. At that time, I saved her life and personally brought her to the demon's shadow palace. But in the end, she stabbed a dagger into my heart. At that time, I was just stunned. I pulled the dagger out of my body and stabbed it into her heart. She must have been very surprised at that time, because my heart grew back in the next second, and she never had the chance to open her eyes again. From then on, I knew how fake the people of the heavenly court were. If they wanted to fight, they should fight openly. If they always used this kind of method, even if they succeeded, so what? It was an unfair victory. Later, my father told me that those so-called righteous people were actually the dirtiest. When they dealt with the demon race, they didn't care what method they used. As long as we died, they were righteous. I sneered and made a terrible decision. 3 months later, I charged into the heavenly court alone with the firmament sword that I had personally forged. No one from the demon's shadow palace knew about that battle. I can go in and out of no man's land. If I meet a god, I kill a god. If I meet a Buddha, I kill a Buddha. The sword in my hand was stained with blood. I killed my way to the numinous heaven king hall. They had countless divine weapons, but they couldn't stop my attacks. As for me, as long as I'm injured, my wounds will heal quickly. Other than my arm being a little sore, I didn't feel anything else. At that time, the master of the heavenly courts was called the Mystic Tharch. In his memories, he was an immortal who was very afraid of death. Finally, I killed him. In the next few years, the heavenly court no longer dealt with me. Since they knew they couldn't do anything to me, they started to deal with my family. Chapter 1188. In the so-called life and death battle, I used blood to sacrifice the firmament sword. It opened a crack in space and destroyed the world. The firmament sword shattered and turned into pieces of stone. Tens of thousands of years later, the people of the lower realm found them piece by piece and used them piece by piece. In the end, there was only one stone left. It was the divine weapon that the heavenly court and the demon race wanted, the firmament stone. That's right, I became a god later on. The only god of the Harmony continent, a righteous person respected by everyone. But later on, I found that this so-called high and mighty place was just as I had imagined. It was even more eloquent than when I was a gold demon tens of thousands of years ago. Everyone said one thing on the surface and another behind. In order to become a god, they used all kinds of methods. It was because of this that I created my own sect called the Disturbed Love Sect. Only by cutting off all emotions could I enter the sect, but I didn't seem to have passed this test. The first time I met her was in the Forgotten River realm. She was a lower realm cultivator that dared to fight the demon race's Luo Yaoyu alone. This was something I never would have thought. Therefore, I made a move. At first, I only knew that I would meet an extraordinary person, but I never thought that she would be this ordinary. But those eyes were as clear as the morning. It was like I could see my own reflection just by looking at them. This time, I did what a god should do. For example, saving the people from fire and water. But when she played the zither with Feng Wuji, it made me dazed. I knew her identity at that time. Rumors. The #1 beauty of the Harmony continent. The demon race's first daughter, Luo Qingqian. Although I didn't know why I couldn't see her real body, I was certain that it was her. Because at a certain moment, I felt the aura of the red demons on her. After all, there weren't many red demons in this world. When we parted, I looked into her eyes, and there was an indescribable throbbing in my heart. In the past, in order to find eternity, I had already cut off my name on the Magpie Bridge's 3 life stone. But then I realized that the so-called 3 live stone was nothing more than a seal in the depths of my heart. When they met again, it was at the Disturbed Love sect. She used her decent technique to enter the Disturbed Love sect's first test. Actually, at that time, I felt admiration for her. After all, most of the Disturbed Love sect's elders and immortals were cultivators with a bit of technique. No one was able to see through her disguise. But when I thought about it, it made sense because even I couldn't tell. In the second round of the competition, the 1,000-piercing zither would use layers upon layers of attacks. For some reason, I felt worried for her. I was afraid that she would be injured because of her desire to win. I unconsciously put my right hand into my sleeve so that I could protect her and retreat when she was injured. Fortunately, she was quite obedient and didn't make me worry. I also did something that made me feel at ease, and that was to help her choose the next peak she wanted to go to. In the entire Disturbed Love sect, only I am qualified to be her master. Or rather, only I am qualified to like her in this world. Only me, only me, only me. Her days in the Disturb Emotion Hall had truly brought out her gluttonous nature to the fullest. When it came to delicacies, it naturally attracted a lot of gossip. Chapter 1189. It was a wonderful, throbbing feeling. It was as if as long as our names were mentioned together, it would be a very pleasant feeling. But these days were very short. The Wu people's chief, Yi Jihan, who was her previous husband, personally came to the Disturbed Love sect. I had heard a bit about what happened between them. I could only say that I met her too late. I didn't even have time to feel sorry for her. When I saw Yi Jihan, I had the urge to kill him in front of the Disturbed Love sect, but when I saw her eyes, it was like she was watching a play. I couldn't see a trace of love or hate in her eyes. There was only disgust, the same expression as mine. The elders were very friendly to him, treating him as a guest of the Disturbed Love sect. It was at that time that I suddenly felt that there was no need for this Disturbed Love sect to exist. The so-called justice only made me feel it was funny, adding in the fact that I hated the way he looked at her. It was like a sad gaze that wanted to take back her, wanted to be with her again. Of course, I knew that he didn't come to the Disturbed Love sect to find Xiaomo Xing, but rather to find her. I wanted to find a reason to chase Yi Jihan out of the Disturbed Love sect, but I never thought that Feng Wuji would come. I could see from her eyes that she wanted to go to him. Although I didn't want her to go, I could see from her eyes that the person she liked was me. Everyone had their own mission, and I believed that she wanted to go because she had something she wanted to do. Since I loved her this much, I shouldn't stop her. In the end, I let her go. Of course, I seriously told her that if she didn't come back, I would go find her. But she really didn't come back. It was a lie to say that I wasn't disappointed. It was also a lie to say that I was afraid that Feng Wuji would move her before me. But I felt that if I trusted someone, I had to trust everything about her. I just had to appear when she needed me and not let anyone hurt her. Of course, in the end, I also worked hard in this direction. There's probably no one in this world other than me who can withstand the loss of a godhead. Since ancient times, when immortals made mistakes and became sinful immortals, their primordial spirits would basically dissipate after the sin of thunder. After all, in the eyes of the mortals of the lower realms, that was the pain of having their flesh and bones cut off. Actually, it wasn't that it didn't hurt. It was just that I didn't care. Because I had more important things to do, I told myself that it didn't matter if the world was destroyed again, I would protect her. This included protecting the people she cared about. In the end, I saved Feng Wuji. Although he had lost all of his cultivation, he was reborn from the ashes. But at the end of the story, I also gave him all the cultivation I had left in this world. Because although she was a demon, she didn't live as long as I did. On the day she disappeared, it was a night as bright as the stars. The air was filled with the faint scent of cherry blossoms. I hugged her and counted the stars in the sky with her. It wasn't until there was a bit of weight in my arms that I closed my eyes and smiled bitterly. A cold liquid flowed out of my eyes. This was the first time I cried in thousands of years. For her, it was worth it. Time left no trace. Life was like a dream. Only the cherry blossoms that you brushed away were still waiting in my memory, weaving an eternal entanglement. The world is impermanent, curtain calls in panic. Chapter 1190. When she returned to the chaos space again, she felt as if it was a lifetime ago. It was probably because this lifetime was very long, but she still couldn't bear to part with it. In the end, when she closed her eyes, she still said, "Wait for me." "Welcome back, host. Why are you in a daze?" "Nothing." Luo Qingchen shook her head, yawned, and said, "It's still early. I'm going to sleep." The host acts as if she's very tired and working hard. The system helplessly stretched out its hand, thinking, the host clearly only eats and drinks all day long. When she's happy, she acts chivalrously, but when she's unhappy, she looks on coldly from the sidelines. How can she have the nerve to say she's tired? What does it have to do with you? Luo Qingchen lightly snorted and burrowed into her bed. There were many strange scenes in the dream, most of which she couldn't remember very clearly. The only thing she remembered was that she was kneeling in the heavenly palace in front of a man who was as cold as snow. He was dressed in white, and his deep eyes were deeply staring at her. The people around her seemed to want to kill her, but the man in white stood in front of her resolutely, blocking all the harm for her. In an instant, she suddenly opened her eyes and was so scared that she broke out in a cold sweat. The host doesn't seem to be sleeping well at all. I didn't intend to sleep well. She took a deep breath, and a faint emotion flashed through her eyes. She wanted to know what happened 30,000 years ago, and the memories were engraved under the rings of time. She desperately wanted to find that answer. The system seemed to read her mind, and only said to her in a mechanical tone, frowny face, the host doesn't need to worry about the past. After all, as long as the host completes all the missions, the experience points will be full, and all the memories will be restored. Your behavior of dividing and dividing every world. I don't know when I'll be able to escape from the sea of suffering. Luo Qingchen pursed her lips, but was too lazy to argue with it, and waved her hand. Continue. The following is a summary of the data of this mission. Please read it carefully. Name: Luo Qingchen World Space. The righteous sect leader's demonic, which mission completion rate 100%. Since the system forgot to reward him in the previous world, there was no change in his EXP. Luo Qingchen's inner OS. I don't know if I should say MMP. Didn't she just say that the system's 7 to 8 deduction behavior will be drowned in a pig cage in ancient times? Currently, he had 3 items in his dimensional storage: Exquisite Ring and 9-section Moon Whip. Permanent ability: Space and Time, Freeze, LV1 exchange points. 11,000 base points. 40-inch. Speaking of which, I forgot to ask last time. Luo Qingchen blinked when she saw the space-time freeze on the system panel. Since I can use space-time freeze at will, there won't be any side effects. To be honest, she did not believe that the system would be so kind. The host's space-time freeze is currently at level 1. When using it, the host's stamina is insufficient. The level will increase according to the host's proficiency. Host, do not worry. The system will tell you when you level up. The host's 20-second mission panel is below. In the next second, the image in the bronze mirror changed. Mission rating: B. Experience gained 500. Exchange points gained 5,000. Spatial storage expansion +1. Female lead: Luo Qingchen. Male lead: Chu Shimo. Supporting female lead: Liang Ji. Supporting male lead: Lin Ruo. Jing. Mission content: return to 3 months before the female lead's death and obtain the love of the male lead Chu Shimo. Chapter 1191. This story really made one's heart ache for the male lead. This was because the male lead was indirectly killed by the previous host. Although it was indirect, the previous host took 99% of the responsibility. The previous host was the youngest daughter of Long Peace City's 6th king. Not only was she spoiled by her parents since she was young, even her big brother spoiled her to the heavens. The servants in the prince's mansion also took special care of this little princess. The chefs basically cooked delicacies according to her taste every day. Her taste buds were very sensitive. She could tell what seasoning was in a dish and how much heat was used just by tasting it. The chefs of the king's palace changed again and again, but there was finally someone who could satisfy her taste buds. That person was the supporting male lead, Lin Ruo Jing. A person who seemed a bit weak, but had an imposing aura when it came to cooking. Over time, the previous host went from liking his dishes to liking him. The sixth king actually didn't like this Lin Ruo Jing because he was born lowly. His mother had died early and his father was a bandit. He wanted to take the imperial exam and enter the court, but even if he went to the teacher's class for free, he couldn't even pass the county-level exam. In the end, he gave up on it. He went to the Red Joy House to be an apprentice to the chef, but he found that the kitchen was where he could display his skills. Over time, he became a very outstanding chef in Long Pi City. But the identity of a chef in front of the sixth king's precious little princess was still lowly. But even like this, it couldn't stop the previous host's love for him. Moreover, she wanted him to enter the sixth king's palace and marry him. The sixth king naturally wasn't happy, but his woman liked him. Not to mention that this Lin Ruo Jing had a bit of ability, so it wasn't a problem to arrange for him to enter the court. When the previous host accidentally mentioned this matter to Lin Ruo Jing immediately agreed. But this Lin Ruo Jing already had a wife when he came to the king's palace. His wife was the supporting female lead in this story, Liang Ji. Liang Ji was a singer, and when he was still a chef, he fell in love with Liang Ji. The two of them fell in love and secretly bowed to the heavens, secretly pledging their lives to each other. Of course, the previous host didn't know about this. The story developed very smoothly. In order to match Lin Ruo Jing's identity with his daughter, the sixth king gave him an official position. He directly used his identity as a prince to make him an official in the imperial court, a third-rank official. Although this title didn't match his precious daughter, it was at least better than being a chef. On the eve of the wedding, Lin Ruo Jing told her that he wanted to personally take her to see the sea. The previous host naturally knew that Lin Ruo Jing would personally go out to catch seafood in order to let her eat the freshest seafood. Thinking of this, the original owner felt very moved and couldn't wait to go out to sea with him. But the original owner didn't know that this trip out to sea was a Hongmin banquet. They went to the Blood Blue, the pirates. Lin Ruo Jing was Ruo Jing's father's Ruo Jing. Ruo's Ruo. Ruo as the sixth king's most precious daughter, as the most important girl in Lin Ruo Jing's heart. The previous host naturally had Lin Ruo Jing go back to get the silver. Chapter 1192. On Blood Blue Island, the previous host was tied up and brought in front of the male, Li Chu Shimo. He was surprised when he saw her, and the wine cup in his right hand paused. After a while, he slowly said, "Untie her." The previous host felt that the male lead was very familiar, but she couldn't remember who he was. Only when she ate the food the male lead cooked for her did she remember. The male lead's food was the best she had ever eaten in her life. It was even better than Lin Ruo Jing's cooking. They met 3 years ago. The previous host was a proud little princess back then, although she was still one now. But the male lead was already a pirate on the sea at that time. He had been seriously injured because of a leak of information and was trapped in Long Pi City. The soldiers were looking for him, and he had nowhere to run. He could only hide in a restaurant and knock out the chef. At that time, the previous host was living in the inn upstairs. Because she was angry with the sixth king, she came out to look for him all night. It was that dinner that made her summon the waiter to bring the male lead to his room and send the soldiers away for him. Chu Shimo said to the previous host when he left, "I owe you a life. I will definitely pay you back in the future." The previous host just replied with a smile, "If there's a chance to eat your food again, it's enough." On Blood Blue Island, he arranged for her to live in the room next to his. The room was very clean, and the bedding had been changed. Of course, she had made a table full of dishes for him. Each one was the most delicious dish on the sea. The little maid who brought her the dishes looked at her with envy and said, "The emperor never cooks. This is my first time seeing him cook." The previous host learned later that the male lead was a pirate who specialized in stealing money from the sea. The entire sea was his world. Because of his appearance, all the large and small pirates bowed down or were fed to the fish in the sea. Therefore, he was called the Emperor of the Sea by many people, because he only left a small part of the money for his brothers to eat and wear, Most of it was given to the victims of disasters and the people of the poor areas. Every time they delivered the rations, they would leave behind the word emperor. In their eyes, the word emperor was like a god, and the original host didn't like him at all. 3 days later, Lin Ruo Jing didn't come. The male lead escorted her back to Chong and city and gave her a star firework. The word emperor was engraved on it. Chu Shimo said to her, "As long as you're in danger or you need me to pull the fireworks in your direction, I'll be there. As long as I'm alive, I'll save you." But they didn't know that Lin Ruo Jing's original plan was ruined. He was chased out of the king's palace by the sixth king and his official position that hadn't been warmed yet, so he held a grudge in his heart. He stole the original owner's star fireworks and told the soldiers to catch all the pirates in one fell swoop. That night, the sky was as bright as the stars, resplendent. She almost went crazy and ran to the place where the fireworks were released, only to see a ground full of corpses. At that moment, the original owner suddenly thought of his words. "I owe you a life. I will repay it in the future." The previous host wanted to take revenge for Chu Shimo, but she couldn't find Lin Ruo Jing. It was like he had disappeared, including the singer Liang Ji. Later, the previous host learned that he had replaced Chu Shimo with Uncle Lu, becoming the overlords of the sea. And they didn't rob the rich to help the poor, only doing all kinds of evil. In order to kill her, the previous host had personally set up a ship for them to rob. When she saw Lin Ruo Jing, she ignited all the explosives on the ship. Chapter 1193. Has the host finished taking care of everything? What are you rushing me for? Such a complicated relationship. Of course you have to give me some time to digest it. The current time was when she had just stepped onto the pier and had yet to return to the residence. When Chu Shimo sent her back, in order to avoid people's eyes, he had given her a set of men's clothes. Along the way, the people of Chong and whispered to each other. They were all talking about her. Say, this little princess really is pitiful. She was actually kidnapped by pirates on the eve of her wedding. That's right. I've heard that her fiancé hasn't slept in the past few days in order to find her. She really is pitiful. It's not easy to find a good man these days. She could have lived a happy life, but now she can only prepare a morning haul. I say be quiet. If the people of the king's palace hear you, you might lose your little life. Luo Qingshan heard this and narrowed her eyes. The scene of the previous host returning to the king's palace appeared in her mind. White silk hung high, and the entire palace was filled with sorrowful cries. There was a crystal coffin in the hall, and there was a conversation between the sixth king and Lin Ruo Jing. My Qing. Lin Ruo Jing was crazily kneeling on the ground as he kept calling out. His voice was very hoarse. He was crying that he wanted to take revenge for him. The sixth king saw that he was so good to his daughter, so his attitude towards him changed. Qing is like this to her, even if she goes to the Yellow Spring. After saying this, the sixth king couldn't keep talking. His old face was covered in tears as his voice was choked up. In her memories, the previous host had come in at this time. She looked at Lin Ruo Jing with a look of disbelief, and Lin Ruo Jing looked at her with a look of panic. The mask that was abruptly torn off was extremely ugly. At this time, she was hesitating whether she should return to the king's palace or not. After all, for a person like Lin Ruo Jing, if she didn't let him fall to pieces, it would be hard to resolve the hatred in her heart. She put the star fireworks in her arms and walked in the direction of the star fireworks while opening the system shop. Exchange for the moon glass fan. Ding! 5,000 exchange points has been taken. Successfully exchanged for the moon glass fan. Moon glass folding fan's description is as follows. The moon glass folding fan's entire body is immersed in a moon-white radiance, cool to the touch. It had a faint mint smell and was mainly used for long-range attacks. Can't be used in non-arcana planes, only for decoration. Luo Qingshan was full of disdain for the system, but he still maintained a handsome smile and opened his folding fan. There was a faint peppermint aroma in the air, making people feel relaxed and happy. After all, if she wanted to go, she would need this aura. Yes, you guessed right. She wanted to find Liang Ji. Oh, this guest is so handsome. Please come in. The person who greeted her outside the door was a typical brothel keeper. She wore a red and green silk dress and held a red handkerchief in her hand. Her entire body exuded the scent of rouge and powder. Luo Qingshun pursed her lips and said, "I came to find Miss Liang Ji." "Aya, the young master really has good eyes. Miss Liang Ji is our top flower. Not only is she beautiful, her zither skills are also outstanding." The brothel keeper began to praise her daughter's merits with a smile. Luo Qingshun gave her the money Chu Xiamo gave her and said, "Bring me to see Miss Liang." Chapter 1194. The moment she came in, there was a strong scent of rouge that filled her nose. Luo Qingshun took the chance when the procuress went to find Liang Ji to write a few words. She had the servant bring the note to her father in the king's palace. "I'm fine, don't worry. Lin Ruo Jing wasn't a good person. Don't expose him for now." After all, this was the heart of a parent. She didn't want her parents to worry. She was looking for Liang Ji because she wanted to see the rumored #1 girl. This girl who used her status to obtain the heart of that scum man. She wanted to see what she looked like. Liang Ji came a bit slowly, so much so that she ran. "Knock, knock, knock." After knocking on the door, there was a delicate voice that sounded, "Young Master Luo, I am Liang Ji." Her voice was very soft, just like cotton in the clouds. Any man who heard it couldn't help trembling. Lin Ruo Jing must have been enchanted by this Liang Ji in the past. "Come in." Luo Qingshun waved the moon glass fan in her right hand, and her lips curled into a faint smile. When Liang Ji pushed open the door and came in, she was stunned. After all, she was still considered nobody. She was wearing a lotus green satin dress with 100 butterflies and a pair of shoes embroidered with pearls and pearls. Her fine black hair was inserted diagonally with a carved crystal hairpin. Every frown and smile of hers was so lovely and moving. There was a mole under her eye that made people feel even more pity for her. But to be honest, she really wasn't boasting. She felt that she was much better looking than this singer. At least her eyes were cleaner than hers. Liang Ji tenderly bowed to him and said, "Does young master want to hear Liang Ji play a song or talk with Liang Ji?" She looked at the money bag on the table. The corner of the gold was faintly discernible. There were at least several dozen taels of gold inside. As the #1 girl, she naturally knew that this person in front of her was rich. Then she had to properly grasp this opportunity. Luo Qingshun gently shook the wine cup in her hand and looked at her as she said, "Drink with me. Young Master Luo is so bad. You're teasing Liang Ji." Her delicate voice rang in her ears, and she couldn't help feeling nauseous. It wasn't that she looked down on the brothel girls, she looked down on Liang Ji. Indeed, birds of a feather flocked together. "As for me, I don't have much money when I'm outside." Luo Qingshun raised her right hand and weighed the gold in her hand. "If you want me to serve you well tonight, all of this gold is yours." Chu Xiamo, who was watching the night sky not far away, gave a large sneeze. The subordinate beside him asked, "Young master, be careful not to catch a cold." Chu Xiamo narrowed his eyes and slightly knit his brows. "Someone should be cursing me, or doing something wrong to me." It turned out that Luo Qingshun had indeed done something wrong, but she had not done anything wrong to him. It was just that she had spent all the gold he had given her for an enemy. Of course, although Liang Ji's alcohol tolerance was good, it was not as good as Luo Qingshun. She still got her drunk and took the keepsake Lin Ruo Jing gave her. There were some things that would only be better if one gave others a taste of their own medicine, right? The next morning, Luo Qingshun was waiting for Lin Ruo Jing at the gates of the king's palace. At this time, he was wearing a white robe with a mole at the corner of his eye, but there was a smile that was hard to hide on his lips. Luo Qingshun had arranged for someone to give him a letter since she had given him the keepsake. Chapter 1195. At this time, Luo Qingshun had already prepared a banquet in the 10,000 spring house. She was waiting for Lin Ruo Jing to arrive. There were many of Liang Ji's regular customers here, as well as the people Lin Ruo Jing had been dealing with recently. After all, he wanted to establish himself in the government. Other than the Luo family's influence, he also needed to work hard. Luo Qingshun used 100 gold taels to invite Chu Ji out. She used Chu Junting's name to invite guests to the 10,000 Spring House, wanting her to play the zither to liven things up. Chu Junting was a very good friend of the previous host. Of course, when she learned that Luo Qingshun was still here, she was like a phoenix reborn. It wasn't exaggerated. Liang Ji was currently wearing a large red brocade robe, sitting on the stage. Her fingers were playing the ancient pipa, and each word was gentle, making people's hearts tremble. But Luo Qingshun could clearly feel that her expression was a bit awkward. Luo Qingshun was wearing a feather blue robe. She was gently fanning the moon glass fan in her hand with a faint smile in her eyes. Actually, the previous host had learned of Liang Ji's secrets from the previous host's memories. For example, the person she married or the person she promised her life to wasn't just Lin Ruojing alone. Other than him, there were two others. One was the Minister of Revenue's Sun Zhengquan, and the other was the great general Sun Suwei. These two people's statuses, compared to Lin Ruojing, were definitely higher by several levels. Only Lin Ruojing's appearance was a bit better than theirs. No, it should be said that he was much better. After all, Zheng Quan was cross-eyed and Su Wei's face was covered in scars. Liang Ji was very clear that the three of them wouldn't meet. Zheng Quan was quite busy, so he only had time at the end of the month. Su Wei was quite busy at the end of the month, so he had more time at the middle of the month. Then because Liang Ji used work as an excuse to tell Lin Ruojing that she only had time at the beginning of the month. Like this, Liang Ji could accompany 3 men in a single month. These memories were very deep in the previous host's mind. In another world, she only learned about this when she was about to die. But now, she was 3 months away from finding out the truth. After the song ended, Liang Ji knew that this was a dangerous place and was about to leave the stage. Zheng Quan opened his mouth and said, "Miss Liang's zither skills are so outstanding. How about singing Farewell to the Night in the small building?" At this time, Zheng Quan naturally didn't know of Su Wei's existence. The way he spoke made others feel that he was particularly frivolous. After all, she would always sing this song to him when they were having sex. As soon as he said that, Su Wei's expression changed, and he said, "Liang Ji, I won't let you sing this song." To be honest, when Su Wei said these words, he was shocked. Luo Qingshun inexplicably felt that the son of a general had a different kind of spirit. Although he was a little ugly, he was still a little ugly. At this moment, the real male lead of this feast at Hongmen made his appearance. The moment Liang Ji saw him, her entire face turned pale. As expected, for Lin Ruojing, Liang Ji was the most sincere. Lin Ruojing's brows were tightly knit. He had changed into a dark blue robe, but many people still recognized him. After all, for the guests of the 10,000 Flower House today, her little sister Junting had spent quite a bit of effort. The hardest one to deal with was Su Wei. As the son of a general, he was a bit arrogant. Then why did he come back? It was because Chu Junting was the emperor's favorite daughter. Chapter 1196. When the surrounding people saw Lin Ruojing, their eyes were all attracted by him as they began whispering to each other. "AI, isn't this the 6th king's son-in-law? I heard that young Miss Luo was taken away by pirates, and the king's palace is still hanging white silk at this time. Damn, what did he come to the 10,000 Spring House for? To see Long Peace City's #1 singer. You don't mention it. This Lin Ruojing was a chef before. I heard that he had a relationship with this singer before." Pung. The table was split in half, and Su Wei angrily shouted, "What nonsense are you little bastards talking about? Liang Ji is father's person. Open your dog eyes for me." At this moment, the entire pavilion of 10,000 Springs fell into silence. The Minister of Revenue's Sun Zheng Quan gave a cold snort. His cross eyes turned as he said, "It seems like young Miss Liang has quite a few old and new lovers. You brat, you also want to get involved." Su Wei was a bit afraid of Zheng Quan since they both worked in the court and were second-grade officials. Young Master Su must be joking. Zheng Quan's eyes had a trace of hatred as he taunted. "On the bed the day before yesterday, she said to me, 'Some people seem powerful, but they can't do it in certain aspects.' I didn't know who she was talking about at first, but now it's clear." Zheng Quan was also afraid of Su Wei, But this was related to a man's dignity. After all, she was a woman that he cared about. How could she be so fickle? If he didn't say it, it would be hard for him to vent the hatred in his heart. See, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air at this moment. After all, the current atmosphere was extremely awkward. But from Zheng Quan and Su Wei's words, the number one singer in the capital, Liang Ji, wasn't like how she described herself. She sold her skills, not her body. At this moment, Liang Ji's face was very pale. Lin Ruo Jing tightly clenched his fists as he looked at her with a look of hatred. He didn't hesitate to take a large risk for her, personally sending his fiancée to the pirate's bed. He could have married the princess, and his career would have been smooth. But for the sake of their pledge of eternal love, he finally chose to take the risk. But what about her? And what did he get in return? They were just two other men apart from him. At this moment, Su Wei clenched his fists and glanced at Zheng Quan before looking at Liang Ji. He spat on the ground and said, "Tui, this old man feels disgusted. No wonder your old man thinks you're loose. It's because you've served too many men." Su Wei's vulgar voice made Liang Ji's pipa fall to the ground. She wanted to open her mouth to explain, but she found that no matter what she said, no one would believe her. "Su Wei, I agree with your words." Zheng Quan rolled his cross-eyed eyes and said, "A prostitute is a prostitute. She must be filthy. It's just for fun. Don't take it seriously." When everyone heard this, all the men looked at Liang Ji with disdain, while the women looked at Liang Ji with disdain. Everyone's gazes made it hard for Liang Ji to breathe as large beads of sweat dripped down her forehead. The most worrying thing was this. She wanted to explain, but found that everyone was telling the truth. At this time, Lin Ruo Jing's face was green. He had truly given his heart to Liang Ji. Chapter 1197. Zheng Quan is fierce, you're right. Su Wei threw him a jug of wine. "Brother, let's go to my general's manor and have a drink. Those little maids of mine are much cleaner than this filthy thing." "All right." Zheng Quan took the wine and drank half the jug. He came forward and gave it to Lin Ruo Jing, who was standing at the bottom of the stairs. He said with a smile of deep meaning, "Brother, I can tell that you're also a victim based on your expression, so I'll leave this half a jug of wine for you to relieve your boredom." Lin Ruo Jing's eyes were filled with rage, and that gentle and calm face instantly became fierce. But in the next second, the urge to kill in his mind immediately disappeared. Liang Ji wasn't worth him doing this. He took the wine from Zheng Quan and said, "Thank you, brother." "You're welcome." Zheng Quan gave a soft laugh before lowering his voice. "It's a pity that the little princess isn't here. If she was still alive, I definitely wouldn't like this kind of woman." Zheng Quan's words made Lin Ruo Jing's heart skip a beat. He was a bit frozen on the spot as his mind turned blank. Just what did he do? For such a dirty girl. He gave up on a girl who loved him that much. After Zheng Quan and Su Wei left, Liang Ji finally came back to her senses from the bad news that filled the sky. She quickly walked to Lin Ruo Jing's side and looked at him with trembling eyes. She wanted to say something, but she was suddenly interrupted by Lin Ruo Jing's actions. He picked up the jug of wine and drank a few mouthfuls before spitting the wine on Liang Ji's face. He looked at her and said, "Wash yourself, you're too dirty." In the next second, Liang Ji's tears started to fall. She bit her lip and wanted to reach out to grab his sleeve, but she never thought that Lin Ruo Jing would take a step back, not giving her a chance to touch him at all. He hated her. Compared to Zheng Quan and Su Wei, he hated her even more. But right now, he didn't want to ruin his future for a woman like her. He still had a chance. He could find Luo Qingchen. Although the time limit had passed, Uncle Lu had secretly sent someone to tell him that the so-called young master did not kill her. Although he did not know where she was now, as long as he contacted Uncle Lu, he would definitely be able to find out. When he returned to the prince's mansion, all the white silk in the room had been torn down. The servant at the door stopped him directly and said to him in a very unfriendly manner, "His Highness already knows about what happened at Wanhua Building today. For the sake of our previous relationship, he ordered me to tell you that he will give you 1 day to leave Chong and city. Otherwise, don't blame him for being cruel." As soon as he finished speaking, the servant pushed him away forcefully. He was filled with hostility towards him. Right now, he did not have much money on him. The money that was originally in the bank must have been confiscated by the sixth prince. If he were to leave Chang'an now, he would not be able to survive. He had spent so much effort to get to where he was today. How could he let a dirty woman ruin his great past? At this moment, he wished he could tear concubine Liang into pieces. He clenched his fists tightly and finally decided to take the risk. He would use the money he had to rent a boat and head to the blood-blue sea, bringing Luo Qingchen back. The sixth prince only knew that he had an affair with Liang Ji. He didn't know that he had thrown his daughter to the pirates. He thought that his guess was correct, since if the sixth prince knew about this, he would definitely have him pay with his life. Chapter 1198. After leaving the 10,000 spring house, she stayed at an inn and used the token Chu Junting gave her to summon her to the inn. Chu Junting was very fast. She had already prepared large and small bags for me. The large bags contained a change of clothes, 2 sets of men's clothing and 2 sets of women's clothing. The small bags were all filled with silver. After all, there was a rumor that money could make the devil turn millstones. This sentence was absolutely not without reason. I say, Your Highness, in this world, the only person who can make me run errands is you. Chu Junting lazily sat on a chair to the side, drinking her Biluakun tea while saying, What do you want these clothes for? Going out of the city? Chu Junting was very happy about her return. Of course, she also vaguely felt that her temperament had changed. However, she was a woman. After experiencing such emotional pain, it was normal for her to change. I do need to go out. Luo Qingchen looked at her, her clear eyes flashing with a touch of Liguang. But it's not going out of the city, it's going out to sea. PFFF. Chu Junting couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of tea. She looked at the bright moonlight outside the window with an expression of disbelief, then looked at her beautiful face under the moonlight and said, You can't be telling me that you want to go out to sea right now. Not to mention the high risk of going out at night. Even if they didn't encounter pirates, they would still be lost in the sea. This sister of hers wouldn't be too emotionally hurt and want to commit suicide, right? In the next second, Luo Qingchen chuckled and shrugged. You're not stupid. I've already contacted the boatman. We'll set out now. Don't. Chu Junting suddenly stood up and looked at her with a serious expression. My Qing, when I was young, Imperial Mother told me that there are countless heartless men in the world. If you can't do it, you can change them. You can't have the crooked idea of suicide. Think about it. If you die, wouldn't you be falling into a heartless man's trap? I'll tell you. Stop. Luo Qingchen chuckled and interrupted her. I can't die for that kind of man. He doesn't even have the qualifications to carry my shoes. For the current Luo Qingchen, Lin Ruojing wasn't even qualified for her to look at his best cooking skills. After all, if a person's heart was evil, then no matter how high his attainments in a certain field were, he would never be able to do anything. In her eyes, it was also filthy. Wah! Chu Junting's eyes turned as she looked at her and said, Before, you never said a bad word about Lin Ruojing. Although one of them was a princess and the other a princess, they were not related by blood. This was because the sixth king was not the son of a late emperor, but a king who was appointed because of his meritorious service. But even so, it did not hinder the collision of friendship. When they were young, they were destined to be best friends for the rest of their lives because of a palace banquet. The original owner cherished her friends, so she still cherished them even when she replaced the original owner's identity. The past is the past. Luo Qingchen gave a soft laugh before gently touching her face. It's different now. As soon as her voice fell, she looked at the bright moon outside the window. She touched the fireworks in front of her chest and said, I'm setting off. Huh, you're really going. Aren't you seeking death? In the middle of the night. Why are you going out to sea? Chu Junting wanted to grab her sleeve to ask, but she found that she was already at the door. Chapter 1199. At midnight, the sea breeze blew across her face. She relied on the memories of the previous host to head in the general direction of Blood Blue Island. She chose a boat that wasn't too big or small, and she was the only one on the boat. The boatman said that if one wasn't very experienced, they wouldn't go out at night. But actually, Luo Qingshun didn't want to take him with her. Because if she told him that she wanted to go to Blood Blue Island, the boatman wouldn't even rent her a boat. After all, she had relied on the memories of the previous host and the rumors of the citizens to know what Chu Xiamo had done. In the eyes of the people, he was the young master of the Sea Empire, so they gave him a nickname, Emperor Young Master. He was a boatman that the government wanted to get rid of, but the people praised him as a legend. Starting from a few years ago, as long as the government's boat passed through this area, they would be robbed. No matter how elite the soldiers were on the boat, they would be robbed. In the beginning, the government was a very stubborn iron head doll, trying to trap Chu Shi and Mo Luo again and again. But they didn't know that every time the soldiers went, they never returned. After a few days, their corpses would be blown ashore by the sea breeze. There were no boats, no items, only corpses. Over time, the government didn't dare go head-on and could only take a detour. But they never thought that as long as they went out to sea, no matter what route they took, their boats would be robbed. Chu Xiamo was like a sea god, dominating the sea and invincible. Thinking of this, Luo Qingshun's lips couldn't help curling. After all, he really was a mysterious and powerful man. There were rumors that the emperor was a rough man. Some people said that he was a weak girl, and some people said that he was a gentleman. Actually, the most accurate one was the last one because in her memories, he was a black-bellied man who was insufferably arrogant. So when the previous host remembered who Chu Xiamo was, she regretted it. Luo Qingshun narrowed her eyes. While enjoying the sea breeze, she asked the system a very serious question. System, what is the male lead's affection for the previous host? 0%. Why? The male lead is a person who will repay kindness. He only has gratitude towards the original owner. In his heart, this kind of relationship is not considered a favorable impression. She didn't know why, but after hearing the system's explanation, she was a little disappointed, but also a little happy. She was probably the only one who knew why she was disappointed and happy. Boom! A thunderous roar interrupted her train of thought. Luo Qingshun felt a sudden gust of wind on the sea. Compared to the cool breeze just now, it was on a completely different level. The lightning in the sky struck down toward the surface of the sea, and a few seconds later, there were bursts of thunder. Da-da-da-da-da. Before she could react, large droplets of rain fell from the sky. At this moment, even cursing at the sea could not dissipate the deep anger in her heart. After all, she was here to look for her Prince Charming, not the sea god. In less than a quarter of an hour, her ship was swept up by layers of high waves. Although it hadn't capsized yet, it was probably not far from capsizing. In the next second, she bit her lip and took out the star of fireworks from her bosom. She pulled into the sky, and with a pung sound, it exploded into fireworks. Although this encounter was different from what she had imagined. But this kind of thing that belonged to Chu Xiamo in the parallel world, it was better to use it as soon as possible. The host really is making this system laugh to death. It's like the male lead isn't in danger right now. The Sea Emperor, if he didn't even have this bit of ability, what if he doesn't? Chapter 1200. In the vast starry sky, lightning flashed and thunder roared. The moment the fireworks broke through the sky, it lit up her clear as water eyes. The waves kept crashing against her small boat, like a small boat sailing alone in the middle of the sea. It was like the next wave would annoy her little boat. To be honest, she was a bit worried. Although in another world, Chu Xiamo had lost his life because of the starry fireworks. Then if it happened again, he wouldn't be the same as before, coming here without a care for his own safety. After all, this was the center of the sea, and the waves were very strong. If they weren't careful, they could be swallowed by the sea. She looked up with a bit of emotion in her eyes as she muttered, "You'll come, right? Whether it was the previous life or this life. They had agreed to meet. Could it be that he would come to find her this time? Ding! 500 exchange points has been taken. Successfully exchanged for a Peepa. Comes with Peepa's skills. Without knowing why, in this storm, she suddenly wanted to sing a song. It was a song that suited the situation. Going around in circles, it's too late to pick up the flowers. looking for them in a drunken stupor. Still remembering the oath from the previous life, I couldn't find the words to say. Hating that we don't know each other. I'm willing to turn into the blue stone at the end of the world. Engraved in my heart is your name. The reincarnation butterfly has wrapped itself in a cocoon, weaving the silk of spring, unable to cut, entangling with each other forever. Dash Emperor, the location of the fireworks and the song came from the same place. The waves are too strong. I can't hear the song clearly. Jiyu stood beside him and said with a frown, I'm afraid it's a trap. After all, that hostage had only left Blood Blue Island for less than 2 days, and she actually came back this quickly. Moreover, she directly put Chu Shimo's starry fireworks in the sea. This was too incredible. Prepare a small boat for me. There's no need for a large boat. Chu Shimo narrowed his eyes as a faint sparkle appeared in them. Emperor, he could give her the starry fireworks, so saving her was something he had to do. Jiyu slightly lowered his brows and said, I think that it's safer to send a large boat over. As soon as he finished speaking, he glanced at Uncle Lu from the corner of his eyes and said in a hoarse voice, in case someone does something dirty. When everyone heard this, they all lowered their heads, not daring to say another word. This pirate group was led by Chu Shimo, and Jiyu was one of his most capable left and right hands. He admired Chu Shimo from the bottom of his heart for robbing the rich to help the poor. However, where there were people, there would be yes. The stronger the organization, the harder it would be to unify their opinions. Therefore, he felt very disgusted by Uncle Lu's recent actions. Well, let's drive over then. The closer the ship got, the clearer Luo Qingshan's voice became. Chu Shimo narrowed his eyes as he looked at the girl on the boat. She was wearing an ivory pink dress with a blue jade hairpin on her head. She held the pipa and sang softly. Her every movement, glance, and smile were all faintly discernible in the sea. It was simply indescribably beautiful. Get a small boat. You don't have to come up. Chu Shimo slightly raised his brows. His deep face looked very evil, but there was a coldness that kept people 1,000 miles away from him. Yes. Jiyu nodded and prepared a small boat for him. At that moment, he had a very strange feeling. In this beautiful scene of the endless sea, the smile of the girl in front of him, he wasn't willing to share it with anyone else. Chapter 1201. Her slender fingers slowly steadied the strings of the pipa. She raised her eyes slightly and looked at the youth in a moon-white robe. He was steering a small boat and moving forward steadily in the huge waves. The sea breeze from the huge waves blew his long, ink-blue hair. The color of his hair was very special, just like the color of the deep sea. With the waves on the sea, it looked very good. When Luo Qingshan still hadn't come back to her senses, Chu Shimo jumped out. There was a deep sparkle in his dark eyes as he looked at her. You used the fireworks quite casually. Suddenly, he felt that the girl in front of him was different. Her eyes were as clear as water, and the corners of her mouth were slightly raised. Her entire body was emitting a special and mysterious aura that made people want to take a few more glances at her. Unhumph! She gave a soft snort. She looked at his bright as stars' eyes and said, Anyway, I won't be able to use them in the future. Chu Shimo was surprised as his deep eyes became even darker. At that moment, he suddenly remembered the conversation they had on Blood Blue Island when she was caught a few days ago. Dash, you're certain that Lin Ruo Jing will come to redeem you? Of course, he is my fiancé. I'm the person he loves the most. He. If he doesn't come, what will you do? You? What do you want? My Blood Blue Island is surrounded by the 5 elements and 8 trigrams. Unless he uses the signal fireworks I gave him to pick him up, the government won't be able to find this place. You? Let me go. I am a princess. My father won't care about that bit of gold. That won't do. The citizens of Lee City are waiting for this money to save their lives. When he said this, there was a faint smile on his snow-white cheeks. His thin lips were pursed, making him look especially charming. What do you want? If you're willing to be the wife of the fort, I can spare your life. Despicable. Shameless. Despicable. In your dreams. I say, Princess Luo, You're thinking too highly of yourself." He chuckled, and a playful look flashed in his eyes. Wife of the fort is a general term in the eyes of us pirates. After all, Jiyu has always been quite lonely. Jiyu, Luo Qingshun was the first to come to her senses. She unsteadily grabbed the edge of the boat and said with bright eyes, "I suddenly feel that robbing the rich to give to the poor is a good idea. Can you count me in?" The waves hit the small boat, and he stood with his hands behind his back. The small boat didn't seem to have any impression of him. He was like the emperor of the sea god, walking towards her with steady steps. She stumbled back a little in a panic. When she looked up, she happened to meet his eyes that were as dark as stars. "You, Walla." In the blink of an eye, he glanced at the waves that covered the sky. He narrowed his eyes and reached out his right hand to pull her into his embrace. In the next second, the small boat finally could not withstand the monstrous waves and shattered in the boundless blue sea. In an instant, the slightly salty sea water entered her eyes, ears, mouth, and nose. She used her fastest speed to hold her breath and was about to use time and space to freeze. His moist and glossy thin lips kissed her without a word. She blinked and saw his inky blue hair spread out in the dark sea. He was like a beautiful youth that walked out of a painting. His beauty was enough to make people suffocate. "I can count you in." He paused, and his bewitching voice sounded again. He looked at her and said, "But you have to be my wife." Chapter 1202. Chu Shimo's final words were when he carried her onto the deck of the ship and whispered in her ear. She had her eyes closed the entire time, and she bit her lip. Actually, she wasn't unconscious. However, under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the blush on her cheeks had already spread to her ears. There were whispers all around. Most of them were from women. "Isn't this the girl the emperor let go 2 days ago? I heard that the emperor even gave her the fireworks. She was the one who set off the fireworks just now. That's why we went out to sea in such a dangerous rain. Humph, so hateful. She looks like a spy sent by the government. I'm quite envious of her." Qing Wei narrowed her eyes as a trace of coldness flashed in them. She looked at Luo Qingshun in Chu Shimo's arms and muttered, "This is my first time seeing Big Brother, Xiemo, like a woman." She never called him Emperor, rather she called him Big Brother Xiemo, because the two of them had met much earlier than this pirate empire. It was because of her existence that this empire that robbed the rich to help the poor didn't just take in men as pirates. Even women, if they had the ability, they could do the same. "Qing Wei, this is the conch that was suddenly blown in front of me by the waves." Jiu had been behind Chu Xiemo, but when he saw Qing Wei in the crowd, he immediately came forward and gave the conch to her. "Qing Wei, Qing Wei, Qing Wei." This name was his favorite word. Everyone knew that he liked Qing Wei, but perhaps only Qing Wei didn't know. Or perhaps Qing Wei knew. "I don't want it." She waved her hand in disgust and threw the conch in Jiyu's hand to the ground. "Can you not do such a childish thing? We are pirates. Our mission is to rob the rich to help the poor. We won't go out to sea to look for conches. All right?" As soon as her voice fell, she looked at Chu Xiemo, who had already walked away, and a faint mist appeared in her eyes. She liked Chu Xiemo. This was something that everyone knew. When they returned to Blood Blue Island, it was already the morning of the next day. Luo Qingshun was arranged to stay in the same room, and the one taking care of her was the same maid from before. Her name was Ershi. Luo Qingshun had a good impression of this little maidservant, probably because she had 2 shallow dimples when she smiled, which was especially cute. "Ershi, why do you want to be a little maid here?" Luo Qingshun changed into a green, multicolored, plum blossom gauze dress. While washing her face, she asked. "Me?" Ershi chuckled softly. "I was abducted by another pirate group in the past. Whenever they were in a bad mood, they would beat me. Later, young Emperor successfully defeated them, and I became a little maid on Blood Blue Island. Haven't you thought about going home?" I went home. At this point, Ershi looked a little disappointed. She smiled bitterly and said, "When I went back, I found out that my parents had been killed by corrupt officials." Luo Qingshun heard this and gave a soft sigh. She had grown up in the prince's mansion, so she naturally knew some of the power struggles in the bureaucracy. The current emperor was a very devoted emperor. Other than the empress, there was only one imperial concubine. That was imperial concubine. Of course, there were a few concubines in the beginning. Although the emperor didn't sleep with them, at least he gave them a luxurious life. Their close and distant relatives didn't have to worry about food or clothing. But as time passed, these concubines all died inexplicably. Chapter 1203. Concubine He's father was the regent of the court, being the prime minister and having half the power of the court. His name was He Hongjie. With He Hongjie's position in the court, even the emperor had to be polite to him. Many of the important positions in the court were his relatives. Relying on the He family's position in the court, they arrogantly bullied the people. Many innocent people had died in the hands of these relatives. The emperor was very clear on this, but he couldn't do anything about it. This matter had to be traced back to 20 years ago. When the empress gave birth, she had given birth to a son and a daughter, but the son disappeared in the end. The emperor was furious and caught all the people involved, including the imperial doctor at that time. But they insisted that the empress had only given birth to a princess. There was no prince. But the emperor believed his wife. After several investigations, although he couldn't find his prince, he found some clues. However, from the clues, he found out that the person who had done this was the current prime minister, He Hongjie. At that time, He Hongjie's daughter, Hikinkin, was already a concubine in the harem. After being sent to the palace for half a year, her stomach didn't move at all. Later he found out that the emperor didn't touch her at all. In He Hongjie's eyes, the heir to the throne could only be the prince born from his He family's daughter. Since the emperor wasn't willing to touch his daughter, the so-called prince of the empress didn't need to live in this world. In the end, the emperor killed all the people involved in the matter in a rage. Moreover, he made his position clear in court. The prince who would inherit the throne could only be the child born from the emperor's stomach. But no one thought that after this, the empress would never have a child again. Young Miss Luo. Arshi's voice cut through her memories. She looked up and said, "What is it?" "The emperor wants you to come over. He said that there is something to make you happy." Luo Qingchun slightly knit her brows as a faint Li Guang appeared in her eyes. The moon glass fan in her right hand was gently patted in her left hand as she walked towards Chu Shimo's room. It had to be said, the houses built on Blood Blue Island were like imperial fortresses. The color of the blue sky and the white clouds, the workmanship was as fine as the royal palaces. Chu Shimo lived in the innermost loft with a sign that said, Young Emperor Pavilion. Luo Qingchun couldn't help but sigh. The life of these pirates wasn't sloppy. Although he was always in the rain and wind, he still enjoyed life when he was resting. "Hey, you must be that Luo guy." When Luo Qingchun was still admiring the architectural style of Blood Blue Island, a cold voice behind her interrupted her. He slowly turned around and saw the three of them. The one in the middle was Qing Wei, whom she had caught a glimpse of that day on the deck. The three of them were dressed in neat black robes, and she was currently wearing a long dress with plum blossoms on it. This scene made her feel like a little white flower seducing the male lead. Qing Wei, on the other hand, didn't care about her appearance. Instead, she relied on her outstanding ability to obtain the male lead's heart. "Host, the plot of the novel ends here." "Okay, what?" Luo Qingchun waved her right hand, and the moon glass fan in her hand exuded a faint mint fragrance. Chapter 1204. Qing Wei raised her cold phoenix eyes and looked at her with absolute hostility. The sixth king's daughter appeared in the pirate group. "Do you think we don't know what your goal is?" Luo Qingchun wasn't surprised that Qing Wei knew her identity. After all, the person who kidnapped her a few days ago was Uncle Lu. Her identity should be known by everyone. "Oh!" The next second, she raised her eyebrows and a faint smile appeared on her lips. "Even if I came with ill intentions, what can you do to me?" She never liked to explain to unimportant people. After all, it was that old saying, don't waste words if you can make a move. She could clearly calmly explain to her love rival, but the words that came out of her mouth were absolutely imposing. This was probably more like her style. "You?" Qing Wei didn't say anything else. She pulled out her sword from the scabbard and looked at her, Since you're an enemy and not a friend, then there's no need to keep you alive. She didn't want to kill her, but she needed a reasonable reason to kill her. What she didn't think was that she would personally give her this reason. You want to kill me? Luo Qingchun gave a soft laugh as she put away her fan bit by bit. There was a faint sparkle in her eyes as she said, "Just with you." You. Follower, A looked at her and said, "Don't go too far. Qing Wei is the most powerful woman in our pirate group. If she wanted to kill you, you wouldn't even have a chance to explain." Seeing her big sister being bullied, Follower naturally couldn't help reprimanding Luo Qingchun in a dignified manner. The next second, her eyes were cold as she said, "When did I explain? Qing Wei, you don't need to make a move against this kind of person." In an instant, Follower B pulled out her sword and angrily said, "Just leave it to me." As soon as her voice fell, the sword in her hand attacked Luo Qingchun. The young girl, who was wearing a green dress with plum blossom spots, leaped into the air. With a clang, the moon glass fan and the long sword collided. Luo Qingchun used a bit of strength, and the moon glass fan instantly broke the long sword in half. She jumped and knocked Follower B to the ground. "Ah!" Follower B's groans followed. Qing Wei looked at her angrily. Her lips couldn't stop trembling. Just as she was about to say something, Luo Qingchun sneered, slowly raising the moon glass fan in her right hand. "Let's go together." She loved gang fights the most. In an instant, Qing Wei and Follower A looked at each other. At this moment, he didn't care about the rules of the martial world at all. He launched a series of fatal attacks at her. Unfortunately, she, who had been to 21 Plains, did not think much of this kind of mediocre martial arts. In less than 20 rounds, she only held a moon glass fan and knocked Qing Wei and Follower A to the ground, while Follower A was wailing like a ghost and howling like a wolf. Qing Wei half-knelt on the ground, clutching her chest without saying a word. Her pair of phoenix eyes stared at Luo Qingchun. She lazily opened her fan and fanned herself twice. Don't overestimate yourself if you're not as skilled as others. As soon as she finished speaking, she turned to leave. The surrounding treetops moved slightly, and a figure dressed in green attacked in her direction. Her speed was very fast, and her martial arts were above Qing Wei's. Humph! She snorted coldly and was about to turn around and fight. A moon-white figure landed in front of her. Her long dark blue hair was tied up clean and neat. Chapter 1205. Chu Shimo's deep eyes had a sparkle in them as he looked at Ji Yu in front of him. "Are you tired of living?" Just 5 short words, but they were filled with majesty. His words were like a lion descending from the clouds, looking down on everyone in front of him. Emperor, she was the first. Qing Wei stood up with her hand on her chest and looked at Chu Shimo. She was the one who made a move first. She felt a bit unsettled and didn't dare look into Chu Shimo's eyes, because she knew that if she looked into his eyes, she couldn't keep making up this lie. "Zzzz," Luo Qingchun said with a chuckle. "So what if I made a move first?" Ji Yu clearly never thought that Luo Qingchun would admit it so easily, even in front of Chu Shimo. He knew who made a move first, but he couldn't accept Qing Wei being bullied by others. "Emperor." Ji Yu looked at Chu Shimo with tightly knit brows. "This girl is the 6th king's daughter, and now she's attacking." "Attacking? Qing Wei, we should—" This was Ji Yu's first time lying in his life for Qing Wei, but the way he lied was just too strange. Not to mention that he had his head down. He was even stuttering when he spoke, so it could be seen with a single glance. Luo Qingchun thought that Chu Shimo would say something that matched her reasoning. For example, on Blood Blue Island, young Miss Luo is a guest. How could she attack you for no reason? Or, Ji Yu, we've known each other for many years. Can you raise your head when you say this? Or, although both sides aren't sticking to their words, you can't judge based on the surface. Or, you should practice if you're not as good as others. You shouldn't think that a little girl can beat you. But Luo Qingchun never thought that Chu Shimo would say something that she wouldn't have expected at all. She's right. So what if she made a move first? The 5 of them, including Luo Qingchun, were completely shocked by Chu Shimo's words. No one had thought that he would say such a thing. As the leader of a pirate organization, As the young emperor of the entire deep-sea domain, he had never thought that he would say such words. No matter what, he couldn't protect a woman he had only met twice. Not to mention Qing Wei, even Ji Yu didn't believe it. Emperor. Qing Wei suddenly looked up and wanted to say something, but she saw Chu Xiemo take Luo Qingqian's hand without another word. The words that were at the tip of his tongue were forcefully swallowed back down. Ji Yu was taken aback. He knelt down almost instantly and said, "Young Emperor, I was indiscriminate and almost hurt Miss Luo. Please punish me alone." In the end, he still wanted to protect Qing Wei. Qing Wei, Qing Wei, Qing Wei. He hoped that Qing Wei would forever belong to him alone. It was a pity that the girl called Qing Wei had never belonged to her. At this time, Chu Xiemo turned over and met her trembling eyes. He looked at her and said, "Your move just now was almost perfect." Luo Qingqian was surprised before reacting. So what happened between her and Qing Wei? He hadn't been far away the entire time. Watching her, her lips curled into a faint smile as she looked into his deep eyes and said, "The timing of your hero saving the beauty really wasn't bad." At this moment, the conversation between the two of them felt like they had met their match. However, he held her hand tightly and didn't let go. Chapter 1206. Qing Wei once again looked at their backs as they disappeared from her line of sight. Her eyes turned red and tears fell from her eyes. She always thought that no matter how many newcomers came to the pirate organization, no matter how many girls wanted to get close to him, he would never look at them. He had never spared them a second glance. He had never been stingy with the gold and silver he had stolen, but he never gave them anything other than gold and silver. She always thought that she was the one closest to him. As long as he turned around, he would see her standing behind him. But she didn't know that a girl came out of nowhere. She could actually stand shoulder to shoulder with him. She couldn't accept it. Ji was instantly a loss. He quickly tore off a corner of his robe and handed it to her. Don't cry." Qing Wei was so strong in his eyes. This was the first time he saw her cry. At this time, Ji Yu's heart felt like it was tangled together. It was especially uncomfortable. Scram. Qing Wei forcefully flung his hand away and angrily scolded him. "What does it have to do with you? Can you scram further away? I don't want to see you at all." As soon as she finished speaking, she covered her face and ran back to her room. At this time, there was already a certain number of people surrounding them. Their comments towards Qing Wei were mixed. Most of them were negative. After all, Qing Wei always had a common enemy towards the new female pirates. She rarely had a good expression towards them. This time, Qing Wei probably failed miserably. There's no hope. You say it like she had hope in the past. The Emperor has always treated us the same as her. It's just that she's thinking too much. Hey, you can't say that. Qing Wei can directly enter the young Emperor Pavilion. We can't. Qing Wei could only go in because Ji Yu let her in when he was around. The young master never let her in. Everyone chimed in one after another until Ji Yu roared at them angrily. "All of you, shut up. Do you think this is a small restaurant in Chong, and where you can eat melon seeds and gossip? This is Blood Blue Island. We're bandits." At this moment, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. After all, Ji Yu had always been the big brother next door in their eyes. Some girls liked him, but they never had a chance to be with him. Because Ji Yu would always only like Qing Wei. Everyone knew this. At the same time, Luo Qingqian followed Chu Xiemo to his fortress step by step. It was the most exquisite young emperor pavilion on Blood Blue Island. I didn't expect that you could build your nest so exquisitely. Luo Qingqian nodded slightly and unconsciously sighed. To be able to receive your praise, I'm truly fortunate. Chu Xiemo narrowed his eyes and looked over her. Otherwise, do you think that pirates should live on ships? Shouldn't I? He chuckled and looked at her. Most of these pirates are orphans. They have no place to display their skills, so we took them in. Luo Qingqian nodded in realization. That's why Blood Blue Island is surrounded by the 5-star 8 trigrams array. That's why the buildings are so beautiful at night. Seeing her faint smile, he couldn't help but feel his heart palpitate. He suddenly didn't want to say what he wanted to say, but he had to say it, because he wanted to know her answer. Chapter 1207. Luo Qingqian's brows twitched. Lin Ruo Jing coming to redeem her had surprised her a bit. But thinking about it, it wasn't without reason. As expected, this Lin Ruo Jing was a meticulous person. After all, between him and Liang Ji, it could be said that they had completely fallen out. It seems like you're not that surprised. Chu Shimo's sister raised a brow, and her deep eyes became a bit dark. At this time, he suddenly thought of how she insisted that Lin Ruo Jing would come back to redeem her. Her eyes were filled with tears, and there was a bit of foolishness in her strong eyes. Whether Lin Ruo Jing wanted her to live or die, could it be that he didn't know? I'm not that surprised. Luo Qingqian casually found a place to sit down and made a pot of tea, filling the air with a faint white tea fragrance. She put the tea to the side and took a sip before continuing. But for a person like him, since he can come, we have to treat him well. Luo Qingqian's actions were very casual. Like this was her own home. She didn't care about anything at all. It was probably because she was too familiar with this man in front of her. Chu Xiamo looked at her with a gaze of deep meaning before sitting down in front of her. There's no problem with treating him well, but you have to be the master. She raised her clear eyes, and the corners of her mouth curled into an extremely faint smile as she said, "Pick a good day." Chu Xiamo gave her a strange feeling of a battle between experts. The two of them didn't seem to be talking about the main topic. However, there was a kind of tacit understanding between them that said, "I know everything you say." It was a tacit understanding that didn't need to be said. Let's pick a day. In the next second, his dark eyes flickered with a faint light as he looked at him and said, "We can still treat him to a drink." Her eyebrows moved slightly as she put down the teacup. The moment she nodded slightly, she happened to meet his pitch-black eyes. At that moment, she realized something. A certain person had set up a large cage and invited the ruler into it, drawing a circle around it. In less than an hour, the news of Chu Shimo's wedding had spread to all the pirates on Blood Blue Island. Some were happy and some were sad. The happy ones were the men, and the sad ones were the women. The most worried person was none other than Qing Wei. This news was personally told to her by Ji Yu, and she almost lost her footing in an instant. If not for Ji Yu supporting her, she might have already fallen to the ground. "Qing Wei, since things have come to this, don't make things difficult for Miss Luo." Ji Yu looked at her with a pained expression. He frowned and said, "After all, she's about to become the young emperor's wife." No, in the next second, she forcefully pushed Ji Yu away. The tears in her eyes were like pearls from a broken necklace as she choked out, "Impossible. You're lying to me, right?" She didn't believe it. She was very clear on what kind of man Chu Xiamo was. As for those women who tried to get close to him, he never gave them a second glance. This time, how could there be an exception? "Qing Wei, why do you like the young master so much?" Ji Yu looked at her sad expression, and even his eyes turned red with her. He asked a question that he had always wanted to know. Little did he know that the answer Qing Wei gave him would shatter all of his sincerity. Chapter 1208. These words to Ji Yu was like a poisonous arrow piercing through his heart. Qing Wei knew that he liked her, but she had never looked at him. It was like Chu Qingamo had never looked at her before. After a while, Ji Yu slowly let go of her swaying body and said to her, "There are always miracles in this world. The emperor is also a person. There will always be someone to fall in love with. I have to help prepare for his wedding, so I'll be leaving first." Ah! Qing Wei's painful cries came from behind him, filled with grief. Ji Yu closed his eyes and didn't look back. At the same time, in the young emperor pavilion, in just a short 2 hours, the entire pavilion was covered in red silk. Luo Qingqian was wearing a large red satin dress with a butterfly flower hairpin with a silver gilded ribbon on her head. Her eyes were as clear as water, and her lips were as red as flames. Ershi on the side looked at her and praised, "No wonder the emperor likes Miss. Miss really is beautiful." At least in Ershi's eyes, Luo Qingqian's beauty surpassed all the female pirates on Blood Blue Island. She looked at herself in the mirror, and her eyes trembled as she said, "Do you really think that the emperor fell in love with me at first sight?" "That's right," Ershi said with a smile. "The emperor has never cared about someone like this, personally cooking for someone. Luo Qingshan revealed a gentle smile as a faint Li Guang appeared in her eyes. Perhaps we've already met before. As the Emperor of the Seas, his wedding was naturally very luxurious. Luo Qingshan never thought that pirates would be this meticulous with their wedding. The satin red silk and the candles were swaying, filling the entire young emperor pavilion with a faint wine fragrance. At the same time, Ji went out to sea to pick up Lin Ruojing. Although I'm late, you didn't do anything to Qing? Lin Ruojing's eyes had a bit of worry as he said, "It can't be that you." Lin Ruojing naturally knew what kind of people most pirates were, if they didn't come with ransom money. The men were cut up and fed to the fish, while the women were for everyone to play with. Even if he wanted to give it his all, he had to make sure that Luo Qingshan's body was clean, without the slightest bit of filth. After all, he hated dirty women. In his eyes, he was such a clean man, so his wife must also be clean. Maybe, I will. Jiyu turned over and looked at the empty-handed Lin Ruojing as he said, "But you don't seem like you're here to redeem people." Lin Ruojing's face turned pale when he was asked this. Now that the sixth prince had expelled him from the prince's mansion, he was naturally penniless. It was impossible for him to have the money to redeem Luo Qingshan. He just wanted to bet that Luo Qingshan still loved him and was willing to let him be the sixth king's son-in-law again. Then he could openly continue his path as an official. This time, he would be able to marry her peacefully. After all, he already hated Liang Ji, that unclean woman, to the core. Naturally, I have to know if Qing is still alive to bring the ransom money. Lin Ruojing's eyes sparkled, but he still said word for word, "Our Qing is the sixth king's daughter. The gold you want is just a small amount of money." Chapter 1209. Above the clouds, with the heavens as proof. The four seas, with the earth as the medium. Although their wedding was grand, it was also very simple. There were no aunts' weddings, only close friends. It gave people the feeling that this was a wedding that belonged to the two of them. Luo Qingshan looked up at the handsome youth in front of her. Those eyes that were as deep as the sea had a dazzling golden glow. Just by standing there, he had a noble appearance. He raised his hand and pushed the messy strands of hair in front of her back behind her ear as he whispered in her ear, "Friends of the same heart, life and death will never change." Ding! Affection has increased by 20. Mission completion rate is now 60%. She never thought that he would say something like this. After all, in her eyes, the pirate should have looked particularly boorish, but from beginning to end, he looked like he had walked out of a painting. His dark blue hair fluttered in the sea breeze, and there was an evil charm to it that people couldn't help looking at. Then what should I say? She pursed her lips into a smile that was hard to hide as she looked into his eyes. In the next second, he almost didn't say anything as he gently planted a kiss on her bright red lips. Oh, pa. Everyone was in an uproar, although there were a few female pirates who still looked reluctant. But the emperor was too far away for them. Although they were jealous of this girl of unknown origin, they didn't have any so-called hatred, other than Qingwei. At this moment, when Chu Xiemo was kissing Luo Qingshan, Ji, who wasn't far away, had brought Lin Ruojing over and saw this scene. Lin Ruojing's face went from black to green to black, until it couldn't be seen clearly anymore. He just tightly clenched his fists and had a fierce look on his face. Ji Yu taunted with a faint smile as he looked at him. "Since young Master Lin is here, why don't you stay and drink a cup of our emperor's wedding wine?" Young Master and Mrs. D said that they can't afford to treat us to this wine. You all. Lin Ruojing's face turned livid, and he almost couldn't speak. His eyes stared right at Chu Xiemo and Luo Qingshan not far away, and the veins on his neck popped out. This filthy woman. He was only a few days late in redeeming her, but she was actually with such a shameless pirate. Pooh! How disgusting. There was a bit of guilt in Lin Ruojing's heart, but it had all disappeared at this moment. After all, this dirty woman wasn't qualified to be his, Lin Ruojing's, wife. It seems that young Master Lin doesn't want to stay and drink this wine. Ji raised his eyebrows and said, Then the estuary is over there. Please, I don't need you to push me. I can walk on my own. Lin Ruo Jing gave a cold snort and angrily looked at them. You pirates, there will be a day, tisk tisk. In the next second, Jiu interrupted him and said, I'm sorry, young Master Lin. I didn't mean to interrupt you. If you keep talking, I'm afraid that with my temper as a pirate, I won't let you leave. Lin Ruo Jing was surprised, but he suddenly realized that he was in someone else's territory. To put it bluntly, these people were all licking blood from their blades. Killing him or not killing him didn't make a difference to them. Since Luo Qingqian's path couldn't be taken, it was better for him to leave as soon as possible. Chapter 12:10. Tonight's sea breeze carried a different aura. It was destined to bring about earth-shattering changes. At the harbor, when Lin Ruo Jing was about to leave, Qing Wei called out to him. You're leaving like this, are you willing? Today, she was wearing a different dress. She didn't wear the dark green robe and was wearing a feather blue robe embroidered with moonlight. There was a gold-inlaid jade hairpin on her head, looking very pitiful. To her, at this moment, all of her thoughts had come to an end. Since she couldn't have the thing she wanted the most in her life, then she would destroy it all. Lin Ruo Jing slowly turned his head and his eyes lit up. The strong scent of rouge and powder filled his nose, causing his heart to beat faster. I never thought that there would be such a beautiful girl on Blood Blue Island. He looked at her with a gaze of deep meaning. So what if I'm not willing? I have no power or influence. I don't dare fight with you pirates. Speaking of revenge, he naturally wanted to do so, but Jiu was right. With his body, he really didn't have the ability to fight them. Do you want all of them to die? Qing Wei pursed her red lips and spoke in a voice filled with anger, word for word. Lin Ruo Jing was stunned as he looked at her in disbelief. You don't want to kill them, right? What, are you afraid? Qing Wei looked over him before looking at him and saying, Uncle Lu has already given you a rough idea of your identity. If you go back to Long Pi City now, without the Sixth King, you'll be a beggar on the streets in less than a month. The things that were about to be in your hands suddenly don't matter anymore. Are you really willing? Qing Wei's every word shocked Lin Ruo Jing's heart. He indeed had nothing left. The Sixth King had chased him away, Liang Ji had betrayed him, and now even Luo Qingqian, who always said she loved him, had betrayed him. If he didn't do anything, wouldn't he be too useless? At this moment, Qing Wei's words were the motivation for his revenge. I'm not afraid, but how can I kill them alone? He gritted his teeth and said in a voice filled with hate, Isn't your pirate group invincible? That was before. Qing Wei's eyes were filled with deep resentment. She moved her lips and said, It's different now. To her, this sea had been calm for too long. It was time for the smell of blood to appear. You, what do you want to do? What kind of position do you think you'll have in the imperial court if you wipe out this pirate gang? You? Lin Ruo Jing looked at her in disbelief. You're willing to help me? Yes, yes, yes. She said yes 3 times in a row. Her eyes were filled with killing intent as she suddenly looked up and said, I'm willing to help you. At the same time, the wedding ceremony ended. Luo Qingqian drank a lot. Her slightly narrowed eyes were like a different kind of beauty. Her fair cheeks were slightly flushed, and the way she held her cheek with her right hand made her look especially cute. You drank too much. He gently touched her forehead and said worriedly, It's cold at night. It's time to go in. He suddenly felt that this Luo Qingqian was really beautiful. He would never get tired of looking at her. Ding, affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 70%. At this moment, in her eyes, this wedding had a very beautiful feeling. Leaning against the sea breeze, being accompanied by a lover. He helplessly shook his head. Chapter 12:11. He reached out and gently picked her up in a princess hug. Her soft breaths fell onto his neck, and it made his already restless heart burn even more. Actually, she wasn't drunk, she was just happy. This was a very simple love. There weren't any big ups and downs. She just needed to use a bit of thought to be able to stay by his side. Perhaps many people would feel that they met and knew each other too quickly. But for them, they had already waited for generations and reincarnated endlessly. Chu Xiamo, why do you like me? Her hands were around his neck as he carefully walked step by step. When he heard her question, he was suddenly stunned. After a long time, he gently planted a kiss between her eyebrows and said, "I like a line in the song you sang." He vaguely remembered that day. The waves were rolling and the sky was filled with thunder and lightning. The girl was wearing a dress with a peep in her hand. Her voice was faint and each word was like a gem. She seemed to be talking about her thoughts, like she was waiting for someone to come. Which line? Searching and searching. Another life in a drunken stupor. He walked into the room and softly placed her on the bed. He looked at her with deep eyes as he asked, "You were waiting for me, right?" This feeling was completely different from the first time he saw her. It was like they were two different people, and it suddenly messed up his mind. Right? She pursed her lips as a faint Li Guang flashed in her clear eyes. "I was waiting for you. Always, always, always waiting for you. Finally one day, the moment we met, you looked at me and knew that I was waiting for you." This feeling really was too good. He looked at her, almost staring at her, as if he wanted to see through her. His gaze was serious and deep. In the next second, he slowly raised his hand and gently brushed past her eyebrows and eyes. Then he touched her flushed cheeks. In the end, her red lips had already fallen off. His slender fingers gently rubbed against her lips twice before he stopped and looked at her. "Are you ready?" On the wedding night, every moment was worth 1,000 gold. She didn't reply. She just shyly covered her face with the big red quilt and let out a soft laugh. The next second, he waved his right hand and extinguished the candlestick beside the bed. He put down Manju's gauze curtain and gently held her in his arms. It was a night of entanglement, drunk in dreams and music. Ding! Affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 80%. The next morning, when Luo Qingshun opened her eyes, Chu Xiemo was no longer by her side. She handed her a towel and said, "Hee, Miss Luo looks especially tired." She was stunned, and her cheeks instantly turned red. He only smiled and said, It's all right, it's all right." She washed her face and seemed to have thought of something. She asked Shi, "Where is the young master? He went to prepare lunch for Miss." She looked at Luo Qingshun enviously and said, "Sure enough, young master D only cooks for you." Luo Qingshun frowned slightly. She vaguely remembered the question he had asked her when he kissed her this morning. "Madam, what would you like for lunch?" "Eat crab." She had only answered crab in a daze. She didn't think that Chu Xiemo would make a rich lunch. But when she came to the dining room, she was slapped in the face. Chu Xiemo was much stronger than she imagined. Chapter 12:12. There were 9 dishes in front of her, and each dish had a crab, but each dish was different. Jiyu looked at the stunned and quickly introduced them. "Madam, these are all delicacies that the emperor personally caught and cooked. They are crab fried with ginger, curry crab, spicy crab, crab fried with rice cake, crab tofu soup, crab with tomato sauce, crab fried crab, crab with radish, and steamed crab." Where did these names come from? Luo Qingshun pursed her lips, suddenly feeling that Jiyu was a bit cute. Jiyu thought about it and said, "When I ate at the restaurant before, their chefs got the names." Luo Qingshun gave a soft laugh as Chu Xiemo came out of the kitchen. She looked at his slender fingers that were stained with firewood, rice, oil, and salt. She suddenly felt so warm, because she had casually said that she wanted to eat crab, but the man who loved her had spent so much effort and done so much for her. This warmth went from her blood to her heart, and she couldn't help revealing a faint smile. "What are you sitting for? Come and eat." Chu Xiemo wiped his hands on the cloth before asking her, "Take a look at my culinary skills and see if they've improved. Is it compared to your—" The emperor's culinary skills are invincible. Luo Qingshun didn't want to hear Lin Ruo Jing's name in this atmosphere. After all, in her eyes, Chu Xiemo and Lin Ruo Jing were simply heaven and earth apart. He looked at her watery eyes and said with a smile, "You shouldn't call me emperor." "Oh." She thought about it before saying in an enlightened voice, "Then I'll call you Xiemo." "I shouldn't call you Xiemo." At this moment, they looked at each other and smiled. It was like there were only the two of them in this world. On a deserted island, it was enough to have each other. Cuckoo. Jiyu, standing on the side, awkwardly cleared his throat. How about the Emperor and the Madam eat first? I'll go outside to enjoy the sea breeze. Pooh! Luo Qingchen couldn't help breaking out in laughter. But she never thought that Chu Xiamo would seriously reply, All right, go. Jiyu's face revealed a very stifled expression. He rubbed his rumbling stomach and walked out dejectedly. With a faint smile, Luo Qingchen watched him leave and picked up the crab dish on the table. It had to be said, it really was a pity that Chu Xiamo wasn't a chef. This was definitely the standard of the imperial chefs in the palace, and it was even better than that. Just as she was halfway through her meal, Jiyu walked in with a serious expression. Luo Qingchen thought that he was hungry, but she never thought that he was here to tell her a very important piece of news. Young Emperor, speak your mind. The Imperial Court's first-grade imperial censor, Su Yuan, requests an audience. Chu Xiamo slightly knit his brows and narrowed his eyes. How did he get in? He broke the Emperor's 5-element 8 trigrams array and calculated the direction of the waves to find Blood Blue Island. Jiyu was clearly very vigilant towards this person, and he even looked at Luo Qingchen. You don't need to look at me. If the Imperial Censor really came to catch you, he wouldn't have asked to see Xiamo. Luo Qingchen narrowed her eyes and asked, How many people came? Just him. Luo Qingchen fell in a deep thought. She had heard her father and Chu Junting mention the Imperial Censor, Su Yuan, before. He was the Emperor's confidant and had been gradually increasing his power in recent years, inserting people from his side into the court. Chapter 12-13. In the end, Luo Qingchen decided to leave. After all, as the 6th king's daughter, Su Yuan had seen her before. But she couldn't understand why Su Yuan came looking for Chu Xiamo. He was just a pirate. How could he let a first-grade official of the court take risks and come to this place? As night fell, there was a bright moon in the sky above the Emperor Pavilion. When Chu Xiamo came back, she had already fallen asleep. In her daze, she heard him sigh softly. It was, how good would it be if I could stay here forever? But pirates were pirates in the end. They had a mission to do. Qing Wei received news that there would be an official ship passing by the Morning Cloud Bay tomorrow night. On that ship would be the relief funds the court had allocated for the flood victims. There was a large amount, so it was worth stealing. According to the usual practice, Jiyu planned the route and tried to take the relief funds with the least loss. But Luo Qingchen felt a bit of uneasiness, and this uneasiness was very strong. What is it? Chu Xiamo slowly raised his right hand and smoothed out her knitted brows as he looked at her. You look like you're thinking about something. Is everyone going to participate in your operation? No. Chu Xiamo softly hugged her from behind. Normally speaking, this kind of relief funds belongs to the large official ship. So Jiyu and I will definitely go. Jiyu is an expert at finding directions in the sea. We can evacuate as quickly as possible with him. So you're going this time? What is it? He gently hugged her and said with a faint smile, You're very safe here. I'm not afraid of danger. She pursed her lips and said, I'm a bit worried about you. Relax. There was a faint smile in his deep eyes that tugged at her heartstrings. Without you, I wouldn't have anything to worry about. But with you, I enjoy this kind of worry. Sweet mouth. She pursed her lips. Although she said this, there was a smile that was hard to hide on her face. After a good night's sleep, although a certain person kept disturbing her, she could feel the gentleness in his embrace. The next morning, she was brought to a secret room in the young Emperor Pavilion by Chu Xiamo with the little maid Shi by her side. Although it was a dark room, the inside was still as exquisite as the outside. Every detail was exquisite. It was an ocean blue hall, just like the first young Emperor Pavilion. Why did you bring me here? Luo Qingchen pursed her lips and looked at her uneasily. I've been thinking about it. A few days ago, someone from the Imperial Court came by. After that, Qing Wei received another message. In order to prevent the tiger from leaving the mountain, you and she will stay here when I'm not around. Why did Su Yuan come looking for you? Luo Qingchen pursed her lips and said, He doesn't look like someone who wants to harm us. He told me some things about the royal palace and our identities as pirates. He looked at her with furrowed brows and said, whether he's a friend or a foe, we'll have to wait until we've robbed the disaster relief funds. You mean if you didn't fall this time, Su Yuan would be a good person? No, it's not just that. Chu Shimo's beautiful eyes sparkled as he looked at her. If nothing happens, it means that what he said to me is true. Actually, Chu Shimo still had a trick up his sleeve. Chapter 12:14. Not only did Uncle Lu believe this, even Qing Wei believed it. Tonight, the wind was calm and the waves were calm. The visibility on the sea was very high, so much so that when the official ship approached, they immediately noticed it. Qing Wei was no different from normal, but when they were certain it was the official ship, she slowly moved back. The official ship had been hijacked, but they were also surrounded. The people in charge of guarding the left and right were Qing Wei and Uncle Lu. Capture them all, don't let a single one of them go. The one who said this was Lin Ruojing. He had recommended himself to the Prime Minister, He Hongjie, with the condition that he could capture the pirate group that had been rampant in the Blue Sea for a long time. He Hongjie had a headache because of Su Yuan's matter, so if he could really break the pirate group, naturally he could take credit for himself. After a bloody fight, no one put down their weapons and surrendered. From night to dawn, from the sea to the shore. Even if Chu Shimo was the sea god, he couldn't resist this encirclement when faced with several times their number. At this time, Qing Wei came to his side and said, Emperor, do you still believe that woman? She was the one who revealed the secret. If you use her as a hostage to threaten the Sixth King, perhaps we can still live. She never wanted to hurt Chu Shimo. To her, Chu Shimo was the god in her heart. The reason why she did all this was because she wanted Luo Qingshan to die. Even if she didn't die, she didn't want her to always be by his side. His cold eyes slowly looked up and he wiped the blood on his face with his right hand. She didn't come at all. What? This instant was like a bolt from the blue to Qing Wei. Wasn't her name on the list of those who went to sea? How could she not be here? Chu Shimo heard this and gave a cold snort. Although he was covered in blood, his lips still curled into an evil, charming smile. How could I be willing to put her in danger? With just a few words, all of Qing Wei's plans collapsed. She originally had two plans. If Luo Qingshan did not go out to sea, then this large group of soldiers would go straight to Blood Blue Island. If she went out to sea, she could instigate Chu Shimo to use Luo Qingshan as a hostage in exchange for everyone's safety. After all, she was the daughter of the Sixth Prince. But at this moment, not only did she not harm Luo Qingshan, but she also did not harm Luo Qingshan. Instead, she had harmed her own brothers and sisters. Young master? Ha 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 ha. Lin Ruojing's laughter filled the air. He stared at him with a look of extreme hatred and disdain, saying, You're already a turtle in a jar. You can't escape. If you know what's good for you, then obediently surrender. Otherwise, I'll let all of you dirty pirates die here today. If you want my life, you have to see if you can take it. Chu Shimo narrowed his cold eyes and picked up an arrow from the ground. Just one hand, one arrow. It attacked in Lin Ruojing's direction, firmly stabbing into his arm. Release the arrows for me. Kill him for me. Lin Ruojing angrily roared out in pain. This group of bastards who don't have parents, don't let a single one of them go. In an instant, the sky was filled with arrows that flew at them. In the blink of an eye, Qing Wei wasn't paying attention, and an arrow was flying at her fatal spot. She already couldn't dodge it. Chapter 12:15. Following a swooshing sound, a long arrow steadily pierced into Jiyu's body. Chu Shimo raised his right hand and grabbed the two arrows that came after him. At this moment, Qing Wei was frozen in place like a wooden chicken. When Jiyu used his final bit of strength to raise his hand, she wildly charged over. Qing Wei, Qing Wei, Qing Wei. He silently called out, but when she picked him up, his lips curled. Why are you doing this? Even if you do this, I won't like you. Seeing Jiyu covered in blood, she couldn't even speak properly. At that moment, the figure of Jiyu that she had completely ignored all these years suddenly appeared in her mind. Scene after scene, It was like broken fragments that appeared in front of her eyes. Qingwei, I found a very big crab when I went out to sea today. I knew that you liked eating crabs, so I went out to catch a few for you. At that time, she had just looked at the blood on Ji-Yu's stomach and coldly said, "Take it away. I don't dare compliment you on what you did." Qingwei, are you in a bad mood? Look at the little scarecrow I made for you. Isn't it cute? She looked at his bloody fingertips and said without any emotion, "So ugly. Don't be childish in the future." Qingwei, this is the conch that was suddenly blown in front of me by the waves just now. I don't want it. She waved her hand in disgust and threw the conch in Ji-Yu's hand to the ground. Can you not do such a childish thing? We are pirates. Our mission is to rob the rich and give to the poor. We aren't going out to sea to look for conches. All right? It's fine. Ji-Yu softly raised his hand and looked at her panicked appearance. It's enough that I like you. To Ji-Yu, her liking was a luxury, but her dislike was a matter of course. You, don't say it. Qingwei shook her head. She only knew at this moment. There were some people who were good to her that she would never be able to receive or repay in this life. You have to be good in the future. I might not be able to accompany you. Ji-Yu spat out a large mouthful of blood. He looked at her weakly and said, "Fool, if you can't love someone, then don't love them in the future." In the next second, his arm fell to the ground, and he closed his eyes reluctantly. Qingwei. In this lifetime, he would never be able to see his favorite Qingwei again, Honglong. There was thunder and lightning in the sky. Chu Xiamo lowered his brows and muttered, "Brother, be assured. I will make sure that all of them are buried with you." As soon as he finished speaking, he clenched his blood-stained sword. Amidst the countless arrows, he killed Lin Ruojing. Lin Ruojing thought that he had already won, so he arrogantly stood in front. Chu Shimo's sword was at his throat, and everyone held their breaths at that moment. You, don't mess around. Lin Ruojing's legs turned soft from this sudden attack, and he said in a trembling voice, I am the Lord Prime Minister. I'll only say it once. You better listen carefully." Chu Xiamo had a cold look in his eyes as he looked at him. "I want to see Su Yuan." Chapter 12:16. The losses of the pirates in this battle were too serious, but because Chu Xiamo had Lin Ruojing as a hostage, no one dared act rashly. In the end, Lin Ruojing agreed to see Su Yuan, but he had to go to the court with him first. Otherwise, even if he died, the rest of the soldiers would kill them all. Chu Xiamo, who had experienced all kinds of storms, hesitated at this moment. There were brothers and sisters behind him who had gone through life and death with him. Even if he was going to die, he couldn't let them die with him. "All right, I agree to go to the court with you, but I'm alone." His eyes turned cold, and the sharp scabbard was just a hair's breadth away from cutting through his skin. "No." Lin Ruojing wanted to refute, but a layer of skin had already been cut on his neck and blood dripped down. He tightly gritted his teeth and said, "I don't believe that they won't come save you. Not to mention, I also want you dead the most." Blood Blue Island. There were less than a quarter of the people who came back with the ship, and they were all seriously injured. When Qingwei saw Luo Qingchun, she charged forward with all her might, wanting to knock her to the ground. But she didn't know that with a single jump, she perfectly dodged her attack. "Luo Qingchun, tell me, why didn't you go out to sea when your name was clearly on the list?" Qingwei bit her lip as she looked at her with eyes filled with hatred. "You still don't admit that you're a traitor?" She gave a cold snort. Her eyes were like sharp arrows as she looked at her and said word for word, "You don't know who the traitor is?" The next second, she threw a letter on the ground. She looked at her and said, "I found this in Uncle Lu's room. It's very detailed." Everyone was stunned when they heard this. They looked at each other, but they didn't see Uncle Lu at all. "You're in cahoots with Uncle Lu." Qingwei looked away and said in a stuttering voice, "The Emperor was caught for us, and you're not embarrassed to stand here unharmed? Why didn't you die? Don't you know who is colluding with whom?" Luo Qingchun narrowed her eyes with a faint killing intent as she looked at her. "As for Chu Xiamo, I will save my father myself." As soon as she finished speaking, she waved her hand and left the hall. Everyone moved away from Qing Wei and looked at her cautiously. You, you actually believe the words of that woman who has only been here for a few days. Qing Wei's eyes were a bit flustered. She looked at the people around her in disbelief and said angrily, "We are the brothers and sisters who fought together. That's why we never doubted you." One of the logisticians with an injured left eye looked at her and said, "But the security deployment this time is you and Uncle Lu. Qing Wei, I've always told myself that you wouldn't betray us. But I saw it with my own eyes. The moment we encountered the official ship, you retreated to the back of the crowd. I don't like the Emperor's wife, but I believe her this time. Jiyu is already dead. What do you want to do?" After a while, Qing Wei's legs lost all strength, and she fell to the ground. Chapter 12:17. Qing Wei never thought that the final result would be like this. If she knew that there would be this result, she didn't know if she would have done this. She probably would have because she hated Luo Qingshun too much. At the same time, Luo Qingshun changed into men's clothes and had ere she prepare a boat, planning on heading to Long Peace City. Now Chu Xiamo had been caught by Lin Ruojing. Whether it was old or new grudges, he would definitely let him go. In the dark court, there was a moldy smell in the damp corners. Chu Xiamo was tightly chained up, and his moon-white robe was already dyed red. It was the color of blood. "See, Emperor? Ha 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 ha." Lin Ruojing had a red whip in his hand as he whipped him again and again. He curled his lips as he said, "Chu Xiamo, you are a thief. Do you know that?" At this time, the man chained up didn't say a word as a dark glow appeared in his deep eyes. This was a big game. He was waiting for a chance. "AI, are you mute?" Lin Ruojing looked at him with disdain, but the whip in his hand didn't stop. He kept taunting him. "Do you know what kind of people you are? Do you understand thieves? There are several little brothers calling you the Emperor. Do you really think that you are the Emperor?" Pa, pa, pa. The crisp sounds of the whip didn't stop, and Chu Xiamo deeply remembered each one. It was because he was tired or because Chu Xiamo didn't even make a sound, but Lin Ruojing felt it was boring. He sat down on the side and poured himself a pot of tea. He crossed his legs and looked at him leisurely. "Do you know, someone like me, who works for the Prime Minister in court, and someone like you, is like the difference between heaven and earth. I was blind to fall in love with that Luo Qingshun, but I never thought that she would be this romantic, climbing into your bed after meeting you a few times." Ka. There was the sound of one of the chains breaking. Chu Xiamo tightly clenched his fist. He almost couldn't hold back the flames in his heart as he wanted to kill Lin Ruojing in front of him. He could endure anything, but he couldn't endure saying that Luo Qingshun wasn't good. "You, what do you want to do?" Lin Ruojing cautiously stood up and took a step back. "You thief, just wait to be executed." As soon as his voice fell, he left the cell in a panic, afraid that Chu Xiamo would throw him to the ground. After a while, a black figure appeared in front of him, and there was a faint smell of mint. "Ding! 500 exchange points has been taken. Successfully exchanged for teleportation." He was surprised, but he didn't look up. Why would that person appear here at this time? Impossible. He couldn't help but smile as he muttered to himself, "I miss you so much. Then why did you put yourself in such a dangerous place?" Luo Qingshun shook the flame in her hand. Seeing his injured appearance, her eyes instantly turned red. "You?" Chu Xiamo suddenly looked up at her in disbelief. This was the justice court. No matter how good her hands were, it was impossible for her to jump over the wall and come here. "I don't care. I want to save you." She pursed her lips, and her eyes were filled with determination. Once upon a time, she had also been in a cage like this. Seeing the other him fall under 10,000 arrows with her own eyes made her feel as if she had been cut off from the world for a lifetime. Qingshun, Chapter 12:18. It was hard to imagine that a princess who had been pampered since she was young would say something like this. "Let's go. I will protect you." Luo Qingshun pursed her lips as a faint mist appeared in her eyes. She couldn't see what Chu Xiamo wanted to do. With her identity, even if the Sixth King helped, she would definitely protect him. Why was there a need to bleed and get injured here? After a long while, he raised his eyes slightly. Her figure was reflected in his pitch-black eyes. He lowered his eyes slightly and kissed her forehead with his cold lips. Even though he had lost so much blood, his voice was still filled with gentleness. He looked at her and said, "I don't want others to say that you're a pirate's wife." This was the reason why he would rather come to this step and be humiliated by someone like Lin Ruojing, but he had to grit his teeth and endure it. He was the emperor of the vast sea before, using his identity to rob the rich to help the poor. But now, he wished that he was just a small commoner. Then at least he wouldn't be that far away from her as a princess. He wasn't willing to let anyone say anything bad about her. In his heart, he wanted her to proudly stand by his side. He didn't believe Su Yuan's words before, but now he hoped that they were true. Pirate? Wife. Luo Qingqin's eyes trembled before a determined look appeared in them. "I like you, Chu Xiemo. Whether you're a pirate or a commoner, whether you're a good person or a bad person, I only like you." When he heard this, he was stunned and his eyes were filled with emotions. Was she confessing to him? "So gentle, fool." Chu Xiemo looked at her and said in a cold-as-water voice, "Believe me." Pa, 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 pa. There was a crisp clap that came from outside the door. Lin Ruojing was wearing a red and green satin robe with a jade fan in his hand. He waved it like a rich family's young master, showing a noble aura that didn't belong to him at all. He looked very out of place, like a monkey wearing a tiger's skin could become a tiger. "Lin Ruojing, you're going in and out of the judiciary this time. What rank are you?" Luo Qingchun suddenly turned and tightly held the moon glass fan in her right hand. She stood in front of Chu Xiemo and looked at him with hostility. Z. Lin Ruojing gave a shrug and gave two sinister laughs. "Princess Luo must be joking. I am working for Prime Minister He. I have a personal token from him." At this moment, when he saw Luo Qingchun again, he suddenly had a feeling of jealousy. The woman in front of him should be his wife, but she was actually played so dirty by a pirate that everyone despised. She used to say that she loved him. Now that he thought about it, it was really disgusting. However, in this world, every dog has its day. He originally thought that after leaving the 6th prince's residence, his official career would come to an end. However, the heavens never cut off all avenues. The heavens actually gave him such a good opportunity to work for a person who was only below 10,000 people in the imperial court. The jurisdiction of prime minister, he shouldn't include the judiciary, right? Luo Qingchun narrowed her cold eyes, and a chill came from her body. She didn't kill this Lin Ruojing back then. She really did leave a future trouble. Chapter 12:19. I'm afraid that you won't be able to see my clan being exterminated. As soon as her voice fell, Luo Qingchun was prepared to make a move, but she heard Chu Xiemo mutter from behind her. Lin Ruojing was clearly scared by Luo Qingchun's actions. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva and angrily said, "The Lord Prime Minister is famous for being a pirate on the sea. Today at noon, he will be executed by 1,000 cuts at the Long Peace Court." As soon as his voice fell, 2 strong guards came forward to drag Chu Xiemo away. Luo Qingchun's ears twitched, and Chu Xiemo softly said when he passed by her, "Be good." In the next second, she didn't even think about it before following him. But she didn't know that Lin Ruojing would stop her and look at her with an arrogant look. "Death by 1,000 cuts is too bloody. It's best if Princess Luo doesn't go, otherwise it'll affect your mood for lunch." Luo Qingchun gave a cold snort before a look of disdain appeared in her eyes. "If I say another word to you, I'm afraid I won't be able to eat lunch for an entire year." "You!" Lin Ruojing choked and angrily looked at her. "I urge you not to refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. The position of the Prime Minister in court is not something the 6th king can match." Before, he couldn't raise his head because of Luo Qingchun's status. Now he was the Prime Minister's favorite, and this girl actually dared to act arrogantly in front of him. He simply couldn't take it. Hee. Luo Qingchun gave a cold snort. Her face was dark as she looked at him with an incomparably strong aura. "Lin Ruojing, don't you know? If I kill you, I can use my father's position as a king to escape. But if you kill me, you will be executed with 9 generations of your family." Lin Ruojing was stunned as cold sweat covered his back. Naturally, he also knew that he was slapping himself until his face was swollen. It was just that he enjoyed the feeling of being in power too much. He enjoyed the feeling of being high above and pressing his enemies down to the ground. No, he wanted to have this feeling for his entire life. He absolutely could not lose. After all, Luo Qingshun was the daughter of the sixth prince. Not only was she a relative of the emperor, but she was also a princess. Naturally, he could not afford to offend her. But that Chu Xiemo, that pirate, that thief, if he wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as flipping his hand. He was eliminating evil for the people. He was the messenger of justice. Good. You're a princess. You're amazing. Lin Rujing pointed at her with an ashen face and said, "It's a pity that your Mr. Right isn't so lucky. I can't wait to see the executioner slice off his flesh piece by piece." As soon as his voice fell, he swaggered out of the Supreme Court, leaving Luo Qingshun with the back of a victor. Che! She gave a snort of disdain as a faint Li Guang appeared in her clear eyes. She bit her lip and said, "If I, Luo Qingshun, could let you kill Chu Xiemo in front of me, I wouldn't have gone to the chaos space to reforge myself." Longpi City was very lively today. Before noon, there were many citizens gathered around the execution ground. Not all of them were citizens of Longpi City. Many of them came from the villages outside the city. They all had weapons in their hands as they surrounded the execution ground. 3 hours ago, there was news from Blood Blue Island. The emperor might be in danger. They hoped that the people who had helped the pirates before could save him as much as possible. This news was released by Qing Wei. She couldn't watch Chu Xiemo die in the end, even if she didn't want Luo Qingshun to live. But so what? Obsession was born from the heart. Luo Qingshun couldn't die because she had Chu Xiemo. She couldn't die because she had Jiyu. Chapter 1220. When Luo Qingshun arrived, Chu Xiemo was being pushed onto the stage. The executioner took a sip of wine and spilled it on his blade. "Brother, you have to die a bit slower. If you die first, I can be buried with you." As the executioner who carried out the execution of death by dismemberment, they basically had very good knife skills. The exact time of death by dismemberment was 2 months. If the prisoner died in 2 months, the executioner would be beheaded. Chu Xiemo didn't respond as his slender finger softly drew a mark on the floor. There was a commotion under the stage. Luo Qingshun was standing in a high position, planning to break the prisoner at any time. It wasn't that she didn't believe Chu Xiemo, but she couldn't watch him suffer any harm. Ko. Lin Ruojing was sitting in the official's chair, and the 5th grade official who was carrying out the execution gave him a seat. After all, he was someone by the prime minister's side. A trivial 5th grade official couldn't offend him at all. "It's time, let's begin." He picked up the token on the table and threw it on the ground with a happy look in his eyes. Luo Qingshun was about to use space and time freeze to take Chu Xiemo away. But she didn't know that the people underground had already made their move. "Let go of the emperor. I'm willing to exchange my life for his. The money that young Master D gave us was enough to save my seriously ill child. I'm willing to exchange my life for his. A drop of water, a spring of water will be repaid. Not to mention that the emperor gave us a spring of water. My life is just a drop of water. Let go of the emperor. Let go of the emperor. Let go of the emperor." Wave after wave of shouts rang out. The silver pouch that was once marked with the word emperor finally received its due reward. At that moment, even Luo Qingshun's eyes couldn't help turning red. The emperor of the sea, robbing the rich to help the poor, tens of thousands of people were grateful. This was probably the most gratifying scene for a pirate. One day, when he realized that he was in danger, the people he had helped would remember it in their hearts. She was willing to exchange her life for his. At this moment, Luo Qingshun's heart was shaken by the waves of cheers. The blood in her body started to burn along with her cries. She felt as if she was in the same situation, as if she was willing to exchange her life for his. "Of course he could have you. What do you want? Are you trying to rebel?" Lin Ruojing jumped out of his chair. He clearly never thought that these citizens weren't here to watch. but rather to cause trouble. He was a pirate. As a pirate, shouldn't everyone have the right to do so? Why did he have a feeling that he was loved by all the people? Corrupt officials and corrupt officials. The common people don't know how to make a living. If it weren't for the young emperor, we would have starved to death. One of them, who was in the prime of his life, had a headscarf tied around his head. He stood on the stairs and shouted, "Let the young emperor go. We are willing to jointly sign a letter of blood, as long as the imperial court gives us a way out." "How dare you?" An extremely dignified voice came from the southeast direction of the execution ground. Luo Qingchun narrowed her eyes as she recognized the golden silk palanquin. She slightly knit her brows and narrowed her eyes as she looked at He Hong Jie, who came out of the palanquin. As a person under 10,000 people in the imperial court, why did He Hong Jie personally come to supervise Chu Shimo's execution? Chapter 1221. Prime Minister He, Prime Minister He. Lin Ruo Jing was like a lackey when he saw He Hong Jie, quickly moving forward to greet him. He seemed a little nervous, and his servile manner made him look very much like a lackey. "Humph!" He Hong Jie gave a cold snort. His deep eyes looked a bit tired, but his voice was still serious. "Why aren't you moving yet? What are you waiting for?" Yes. Lin Ruo Jing quickly explained, "The main thing is that there are a few citizens causing trouble. I'll take care of them now. Someone," he angrily roared out, "catch all the people causing trouble at the front for me." In just an instant, the people who were originally standing in twos and threes suddenly became a group of people standing at the front. They directly surrounded the execution field so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. You're seeking death." Lin Ruo Jing was very angry as his face turned red as he roared out, Catch them all for me." Yes. There weren't many soldiers at the square, so they could only use their spears to push the citizens away, but they couldn't really make a move against them. After all, this was the foot of the emperor. No one dared to mess around. When He Hong Jie's voice slowly sounded, everyone took a cold breath. "All those who disturbed the square, kill them all." The scene fell into a deathly silence. Even Lin Ruo Jing looked at He Hong Jie in disbelief as he said, "Really? Are you really going to kill them all?" It had to be said, this prime minister, he really was hateful. I don't want to say it a second time. He Hong Jie narrowed his cold eyes as he stared right at Chu Shimo in the center of the square. If he wanted him to die, he had to die immediately. Yes, someone. Lin Ruo Jing turned around and gave the order to the soldiers. "If anyone dares take a single step forward, kill them all without mercy. Immediately prepare for death by 1,000 cuts." There's no need for death by 1,000 cuts. He Hong Jie crossed his hands and walked to the square step by step as he slowly said, "Directly behead them." Yes. Although Lin Ruo Jing didn't know what play He Hong Jie was playing, he was certain that they had the same goal. They both wanted Chu Shimo to die. However, just beheading him was letting him off too lightly. But it was also good. If he could see his round head fall to the ground, it should be a very satisfying thing. "Come, the prime minister has given the order to directly behead." Lin Ruo Jing threw another token on the ground. His lips curled as he looked at Chu Shimo with a dissatisfied look. In the next second, the executioner took advantage of the gap between the soldiers and the civilians to switch to a large knife. He drank another mouthful of wine and spat on the blade. "Hero, I'm sorry to offend you." In an instant, Luo Qingchun frowned, and the moon glass fan in her hand attacked in the direction of the saber. At the same time, a 5-star dart not far away stabbed into the executioner's thigh. What's wrong? Does the princess want to seize the execution ground? He Hong Jie frowned and stared at Luo Qingchun coldly. Although she was dressed as a man, He Hong Jie could still tell a glance. She looked up at He Hong Jie on the high platform and said, "So what if I am? It seems like the sixth king won't be able to keep his integrity." He Hong Jie's eyes had a faint sharpness, but he pretended to be calm. Chapter 1222. Losing integrity? She gave a soft laugh as a faint li guang appeared in her eyes. She said, "I don't think so. She couldn't understand this, He Hong Jia. The previous host, good sister Chu Jun Ting's big brother, was killed by him, and his daughter, concubine Chu Xiamo, is a pirate from the sea, stealing the salaries of many officials. Beheading him is already lenient. He Hong Jia looked at her and said, "Could it be that you want this prime minister to spare his life? He really doesn't need you to spare his life." Not far away, there was a strong but somewhat old voice that sounded. Luo Qingshun looked in the direction of the voice and saw a simple sedan. The sedan was covered in coarse cloth, and there were beads that looked like jade beads, looking very elegant. Su Yuan slowly came out of the sedan. He looked a bit old with his white beard, but he looked very spirited. "Sir Imperial Censor, what wind has blown you here?" He Hongjia's face instantly turned gloomy, but in the next second, he immediately regained his calm smile. The bystanders couldn't feel anything different, but at this moment, he was very nervous. His power in court was far from what it was before, and adding in the rise of the Sir Imperial Censor, his position had gradually withered away. After all these years, his daughter had no position in the harem. Although the empress didn't give birth to any children for the emperor, his daughter didn't receive any basic favor. However, in this predicament, he had received a shocking piece of news. Back then, the assassin he sent didn't kill the prince the empress gave birth to. Rather, he placed him on a boat and let the sea decide his life or death. But he never thought that he would miraculously survive. He only learned that this person used to be Su Yuan's disciple. Not only did he not kill the prince, he also didn't take the jade pendant the empress gave him. A jade pendant with the Chu character engraved on it. "Since Prime Minister he can come, why can't I come?" Su Yuan narrowed his cold eyes and cleared his throat. "Someone, release young Master Chu." Wait. Lin Ruo Jing heard this and looked at Su Yuan in a daze. What does her censor mean? This Chu Xiamo is the #1 pirate. How can you let him go just like that? This is? Su Yuan narrowed his eyes. He couldn't remember who this person was. I am. Lin Ruo Jing was a bit awkward, but he quickly changed the topic. Who I am isn't important. The important thing is that Sir Imperial Censor is going against the laws of the court. The laws of the Imperial Court? Su Yuan looked at him coldly. His eyes were cold as he said, "You should know that if a person without any rank appears in the execution field to announce the order, he will be beheaded. The two of you, go and unlock young Master Chu." Su Yuan naturally knew that he had the upper hand in the current situation. A few days ago, he was not too sure about the matter, but after returning to the palace and asking the princess, he understood. Back then, the twins that the empress gave birth to had birthmarks on their bodies. This was probably the only thing the empress remembered. One was a dragon, and the other was a phoenix. Combining the two, it was a perfect combination of a dragon and a phoenix. "No need, these locks can't lock me." He reached out his hands, and the chains fell to the ground. Chapter 1223. What does this mean? Lin Ruo Jing clearly couldn't accept this result at all. Wasn't it agreed that he would be executed by 1,000 cuts? Wasn't it agreed that he would be beheaded? Why did the Prime Minister and the Imperial Censor come at this moment? Why did the iron chains that locked Chu Xiamo up suddenly break? Prime Minister, he hasn't said anything yet. What does it matter to you? Su Yuan's sharp eyes glared at Lin Ruo Jing, scaring him into breaking out in a cold sweat. Su Yuan in front of him was the emperor's favorite. A person without any official title like him didn't dare act rashly in front of him. Kuku. Prime Minister, he looked at Lin Ruo Jing with a disappointed look before turning to Su Yuan. "Sir Su, if you're familiar with these pirates, you can let them go. But you have to talk to me first. In front of everyone, it won't be easy to let them go." He Hong Jia naturally knew that he was slapping his face and his heart was like an ant on a hot pan, but he didn't show it on the surface. After all, a battle between experts was decided with a single thought. "Prime Minister, I'm afraid you didn't hear what this old man just said." Su Yuan crossed his hands and looked at He Hong Jia in front of him. "It's not up to you to decide whether to let them go or not." Everyone looked at Su Yuan with confused looks, and He Hong Jia quickly looked at Lin Ruo Jing. Lin Ruo Jing immediately understood. Sir Su is overstepping his authority, After all, the one who caught these pirates was me. Of course. Su Yuan softly stroked his beard and said, "This merit can't be missed, but it's up to His Highness to decide in the end." Your Highness. Lin Ruojing didn't react at all. He didn't know who the Crown Prince Su Yuan was talking about. After all, everyone in Chong and knew that His Majesty only had one daughter, the princess who had been doted on by everyone for her entire life. As for the word Crown Prince, they had never heard of it before. Su Yuan looked at He Hongjie with a deep gaze before looking at Chu Shiemo. In the next second, all the commoners present froze on the spot. Su Yuan took out an imperial edict from his pocket and raised it above his head. Soon after, a large group of people behind him suddenly knelt down and heavily kowtowed. "Welcome back to the palace, Your Highness the Crown Prince." Luo Qingshan was surprised. When she wanted to turn, she met his dark as ink eyes. In that instant, his originally dim eyes seemed to be smeared with a layer of flowing light. He smiled faintly at her and seriously held her hand as he said, "Are you prepared to go from a princess to the crown prince consort?" At this time, Lin Ruojing, who had been standing on the side in a daze, seemed like he had been greatly stimulated as he wildly shouted, "Are you all crazy? Crown Prince? He's a thief, all right? I say, Lord Censor, have you lost your mind because of your age?" He did not believe that a pirate on the sea could be the Crown Prince. What a joke. Then he, Lin Ruojing, will be the Emperor. You insulted an official of the imperial court and slandered the Crown Prince. According to the law, you should be executed with 9 generations of your family. Su Yuan narrowed his cold eyes and looked at the empty field. Since the executioners have spilled wine today, how about we don't waste it? Chapter 1224. Lin Ruojing was pressed to the ground, and his heart was filled with panic. His body kept trembling as he shouted to He Hongjie, "Prime Minister, save me, save me." Prime Minister, he narrowed his eyes and completely ignored Lin Ruojing's cries for help. He waved his right hand and walked toward the sedan. When he got into the sedan, Su Yuan's words came from behind him. Everything in this world is predetermined. It isn't that the past grudges aren't being avenged. It's just that the time isn't right. As soon as his voice fell, Lin Ruojing's pitiful cry came from behind him. Never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that he would be the one to be executed by 1,000 cuts. Inside the palace, the Emperor and Empress were already waiting for Su Yuan in the Supreme Harmony Hall. Among them was naturally Luo Qingshan's good sister, Chu Junting. When is Big Brother coming? I heard that Big Brother is super handsome and was a pirate who robbed the rich to give to the poor. Is that true? Mother, do you think Big Brother still remembers me? The Emperor lovingly patted her head while not forgetting to roll his eyes at her. Your big brother was just born when he was lost. Do you think he remembers you? This Su Yuan really is something. In order to trip up Prime Minister, he made my child suffer so much. There were tears in the Empress' eyes as she said while biting her lip, "This child should be rich, living a carefree life." But, the more she said, the more choked up she became. After all the mothers in the world love their children. Not to mention the Empress who had only given birth to 2 children. Seeing the Empress cry, the Emperor wiped the tears from her face with a pained look as he said, You, if our son sees this, he'll laugh at you." Reporting to the Emperor, His Highness is here. When Eunuch Lu's voice sounded, the 3 of them looked at the door. The figure in the distance slowly walked over to them. Chu Shiemo was wearing a dark gold court robe with 5 colored flowers tied around it, as well as a blue embroidered gown. He was wearing a pair of blue satin court boots and a purple gold crown that was embedded in his hair. At first glance, he had completely lost his pirate aura, giving others the impression that he was a prince in the palace. He frowned slightly, and a faint light flashed in his deep eyes. He knelt down according to the etiquette of the palace and said, "Greetings to the Emperor, greetings to the Empress." Quick, get up." The Empress rushed forward and gently held his hand. "Raise your head, let Mother see." The Empress used the word mother here, not this one. At that moment, It would be a lie if Chu Shimo's heart didn't tremble. He looked up slightly, and for the first time, a gentle figure was reflected in his deep eyes. He had thought that he would never be able to see the two people closest to him in this lifetime. He did not expect that they were the two people with the highest authority in the imperial palace. Although the emperor did not walk over, his wrinkled fingertips could not stop trembling the moment he saw his face. His chiseled facial features, his high nose bridge, and his thin lips. It was exactly the same as when he was young. It had to be said with the strength of his genes, even if he didn't have the dragon birthmark. Even if he only looked at him, he could tell that this person was his son.